Salem District Manual by LeFanu, year 1883, Chapter 4, Departments, page 159. Abkari. Up to the year 1875, the Abkari revenue was conducted on the farming system, the farmings having the monopoly of the sale both of arak and toddy. In the year 1875, the Salem district was selected by the Board of Revenue as a suitable one for the introduction of the improved excise system, as it was known that under the old farming system, most of the taluks had been managed on a somewhat similar plan by farmer renters, inasmuch as they had manufactured nearly all the spirits required for each taluk at a central distillery under their own superintendence and had supplied them to the vendors on the dowel system. Sorry, I guess this is cowl system. That is, the vendor who undertook to sell the largest quantity of liquor per mention was given the license for any particular locality, and he paid for the liquor to the renter as soon as he received it, recouping himself as he sold it to his customers. What Mr. Dalyell terms the experimental excise system had already been on its trial in 5 other districts, and the plan adopted for Salem was based on this, the new system being supposed to combine the moral checks of the southern distillery system, which professed to secure the maximum of revenue from the minimum of consumption, with the financial advantages of the farming system, and would be free from many of the defects which were inherent in both those modes of managing the excise revenue. The main differences between the improved excise system and the experimental excise system are: number one, that under the farmer, the duty on spirits is fixed with reference to the actual selling price of spirits in the districts concerned instead of being an arbitrary rate. Number two, that the contractors are not permitted to sell spirits beyond a fixed maximum price in order to prevent their securing to themselves a large profit on a small and easily managed consumption, to the detriment of the excise duty and the neglect of the supply of outlying tracts of country. And third, that a minimum guaranteed revenue for each district is arrived at by tenders in the open market, so that a public estimate may be occasionally obtained of the normal consumption of spirits in each locality upon which the state is entitled to levy its excise. The improved farming system requires that all spirits shall be sold at certain specified strengths and at retail rates between certain specified minima and maxima. It also provides, as far as possible, for the manufacture of all spirits at central distilleries, which are subject to government inspection, and requires that detailed accounts shall be kept at all distilleries and shops for the information of the officers of excise. In the last year of the farming system, that is 1873 to 74, the total Abkari revenue, the toddy and arak farms being combined, was rupees 3,72,088. The tender accepted for arak by Mrs. Whistleson and Company promised a guaranteed revenue of rupees 3,41,000, and the toddy farms sold talukwar for rupees 1,39,430, the two combined promising rupees 4,80,430. From various causes, the bad seasons, high prices charged, competition of toddy, and etc., the new arak contract broke down in the very first year, and government accepted a compromise whereby the renters were allowed to pay on issues only. Then came the famine, and what with loss of population, bad seasons, general poverty, and etc., the renters never had a fair trial. When the period of the contract entered into in 1875 had expired, Messrs. Wilson and Company again tendered a guaranteed revenue of rupees 1,77,584, and the toddy sold talukwar totaled rupees 1,25,000 for the whole district. The toddy contractors fell almost immediately into difficulties. One of them died in jail, and the arrangements were disturbed not only in this but in other districts. Messrs. Wilson and Company have also claimed concessions which had to be granted in other districts, and on the whole, the question of what this branch of revenue can yield is not yet solved. The bad seasons from which the country has been suffering cannot last forever, and the next contract in 1881 may be expected to be of a stable nature. Valuable information on the subject will be found in a report from Mr. Dalyell to the Chief Secretary dated 23rd September 1876 and another to the Board of Revenue dated 22nd April 1874. Department of Public Works. This department has recently undergone much disorganization and is now being reorganized. A few years ago, a district engineer had under him a range officer of the executive engineer class at Salem and Hosur, a supervisor in charge of a range at Tirupatur, and another working in the south of the district with an overseer for each taluk. The executive engineer at Salem now supervises the assistant engineer at Hosur, and the subordinate department is about to be reduced. So it is impossible to write anything definite on the subject. The roads have all been handed over to the local fund boards who keep their own engineers, and it is understood that minor irrigation works are to be repaired by the collector, while all departments will carry out the repairs of their own buildings. Ecclesiastical. The district is not one of those in which a government chaplain is stationed, but once in 2 months, a chaplain from Bangalore comes out to officiate at the remote depot and Hosur, and when there is a chaplain on the Chevrois, he is bound to visit Salem and officiate once a month. Clergymen on leave on the Chevrois are appointed to be pro tem. Chaplains at Aircard, for which they draw rupees 100 a month and are provided with accommodation at the parsonage, for which they pay rupees 30 per mensem. Otherwise, the district is wholly unprovided for as regards the Church of England. The church on the Chevrois belongs to trustees. That at Salem, which is a monument of good taste on the part of the architect, Mr. Chisholm, was erected partly by local subscriptions and partly by a government grant in aid. The church at Hosur was built by the SPG aided by subscriptions. The SPG is supposed to work in the Hosur Taluk, where the society is only represented by a catechist, who is occasionally supervised by a native clergyman from Bangalore. The rest of the district is occupied by the London Mission and Lutheran Evangelical Mission Protestants and by the French Foreign Mission, which is Roman Catholic. The London Mission has 2 chief stations at Salem and Tirupatur and commenced work under the Reverend H. Crisp in 1827 at Salem. Several schools which had been established and supported by the collector, Mr. M. D. Cockburn, were at once given over to the charge of the missionary. This gentleman died in 1832 and the mission was in abeyance until 1833 when Mr. Walton took charge. The schools then contained 350 heathen children, and on Sundays the number of hearers had increased from 5 to 50. In May 1840, the Reverend J. M. Leckler arrived, and in June of the following year, when the Reverend J. Walton died, took entire charge of the mission, labored alone for 21 years, and while still in harness was seized with cholera and expired on the 17th June 1861 in the 57th year of his age. In the course of 21 years, he naturally made experiments in more than one direction. The first plan which he tried was to establish schools over the greater part of the district where Christian books were taught and where he and his assistants preached during their periodical visits. This plan failed because the masters were all heathens and could not be prevailed upon to teach the catechism and Christian lessons. The second plan was to collect scattered families willing to place themselves under Christian instruction and to form them into Christian villages, giving them pecuniary assistance to start as cultivators. The catechists in charge proved unfaithful, and the people, when the assistance begun was not continued, went back to their old habits and beliefs. A female orphanage was commenced in 1840 with 4 girls, and the numbers gradually rose to 14, 22, 40, and at last 70 girls. A similar school was started for boys, and in connection with it, a school of industry. This school of industry appears to have had a somewhat checkered history. A Christian carpenter and three young men first constituted it. In 1851, a European master and superintendent was needed. The institution then numbered 14 young men to whom the trades of carpentry, smithery, and bricklaying were taught. In 1853, the number of inmates had risen to 35. A second European assistant was then engaged and considerable improvements made. Treble the number of workmen could then have been employed, but to the surprise of the missionary, many of the people went away to the railroad and other places where they found easier work and greater pay. In 1858, there were 16 young men in the school who were instructed in the truths of Christianity while learning a respectable trade. This school, though not fulfilling Mr. Leclerc's expectations, did good work and was only abolished after his death as it was deemed inadvisable to continue it under the altered circumstances of the mission. His widow, who is a large house owner and coffee planter on the Chevreuils, still takes an interest in the affairs of the mission, in which two of her sons-in-law are laboring. According to Mr. Leclerc's report for 1859, a year and a half before he died, the statistics of the mission were as follows. Catechists 11, outstations 4, communicants 35. Under Christian instruction, about 350. As far as can be made out, all these were not baptized, for in the report for 1858, the number of baptized persons is given as 144, while the number under Christian instruction is given as somewhat above 300. The schools were Boys' Orphan and Boarding Asylum containing 30, Girls' Orphan and Boarding Asylum containing 25, Industrial School 25 lads, and 6 country day schools containing 75 pupils. Mr. Leclerc erected a mission house at Salem, a fine substantial Gothic church, and schoolrooms for boys and girls. He also opened a Bible and book depot in the Bazaar Street, Salem. The Reverend C. Campbell from Bangalore took charge of the mission after Mr. Leclerc's death until the arrival of the Reverend G. Mapps in January 1862. Mr. Mapps, in consequence of ill health, was often away for lengthened periods from the district, so that he was able to do but little. And in November 1865, he was transferred to Travancore when the Reverend W. E. Morris took charge of the station. But after 3 years, the work proved too much for him. He was obliged to go home in February 1869 to recruit his shattered health with the hope of returning, but that hope was never realized, as his medical advisors decided that he should never again attempt to live in the tropics. In January 1869, Mr. Phillips took charge of the Salem mission, in addition to the Tirupattur station, an account of which will follow. There were at the end of that year 11 outstations, 14 native preachers, 129 communicants, 475 baptized persons, including communicants, 5 boys' schools containing 125 scholars, and 2 girls' schools containing 84 girls in connection with the mission. In February 1870, the Reverend Henry Toller and his wife arrived to take the place of Mr. and Mrs. Morris, but within 6 weeks of their arrival, Mr. Toller was suddenly attacked with cholera and died in a few hours. Mrs. Toller returned home in the very same ship in which both had come out. The directors were greatly perplexed when they heard of the sudden death of Mr. Toller. They had lost 4 men at Salem during the preceding 8 years, 2 by death and 2 by illness, and naturally feared the consequence of sending another man there. They therefore proposed to give up the district to the Arcot mission and transfer Mr. Phillips from Tirupattur to the Coimbatore district. Apart, however, from the inability of the Arcot mission to take the district, the local committee strongly and unanimously opposed the proposal. They pointed out the effect it would have in breaking up the symmetry of the mission field, Salem being the connecting link between the Madras, Bangalore, and Coimbatore missions, adjoining the latter on the south and Bangalore on the north, and only half a day's journey from Madras by rail. The result was that the directors relinquished the idea of giving up the district, and Mr. Phillips was continued in charge of the mission from 1869 to the present time, except when at home on furlough in 1873-74, when the Reverend H. Rice, who had been appointed to succeed him at Tirupatur, superintended the work from that station. The strength of the mission, according to the report of 1878, or 17 years after its commencement, was as follows: native preachers 5, reader 1, outstations 5, communicants 26, baptized including communicants 154, boys school 1 containing 80 pupils, and a girls' school containing 39. Among the converts of this mission are 5 Brahmins, but one went back to heathenism under great pressure from his relatives. Since the commencement of the mission 52 years ago, the society have kept only one missionary in the district 43 years and 2 missionaries for 9 years. There are now 2 missionaries in the district assisted by 15 native preachers. In round numbers, there are 950 baptized persons, the proportion of native preachers to baptized persons being 1 to 63 and 1/3. The Lutheran Evangelical Mission has a little chapel on the Chevrois, which is occasionally visited by one of the missionaries from Trichinopoli or Tranquebar, but this can hardly be said to be one of the chief stations of that society. The Roman Catholic Mission is divided into 8 districts as follows: Salem, including 9 centers of work at Salem, Chettiapatti, Chinnapambatti, Edapadi, Reddiyur, Kaniyambatti, Sankagiri Durgam, Katteri, Kalkaveri, and Madiyampatti, with 3,795 adherents in 114 villages. In this district is the principal church of the Salem district with its presbytery and 6 minor churches with presbyteries, 1 church with no presbytery, and 2 chapels. Akravaram and surrounding villages with 565 converts. This district contains a church and residence for the priest and a convent for nuns. Ercard in Chevrois, European, East Indian, and native Roman Catholic population 685. A church and bungalow are provided here. Koilur Dharmapuri with 8 centers at Koilur, Savadiyur, Nellimaratambatti, Mallapuram, Pallipatti, Tenkarai Kotai, and Belagundur. In this district are 3,146 converts in about 40 villages. A principal church, presbytery, and convent are provided at Koilur, and 1 church with presbytery, 3 chapels with presbyteries, and 14 chapels without presbyteries are scattered over the different villages. Koilur Tirupattur. This district contains 2,554 converts, 1 principal church and presbytery, 3 minor churches with 1 presbytery, and 4 chapels. Kosavampatti is partly in the district of Trichinopoli, but in the Salem district it boasts of 748 converts in about 20 villages with 2 churches and presbyteries and 3 chapels. Kangaveli has some villages in South Arcot, but in Salem it has 1,698 converts in about 40 villages, 2 churches with presbyteries and 1 chapel with presbytery, and 6 chapels without presbyteries. Madagondapalli. This district is at present governed by the Vicariate Apostolic of Bangalore, the 7 preceding being under the Bishop of Pondicherry. This, however, is not a permanent arrangement but may be modified according to the number of missionaries available. 25 years ago, the whole district of Salem was under a single priest. There are now 10 or more. Madagondapalli is the chief station where a pretty church, giving quite a home-like look to the village, has been erected. The stations annexed to it are Mattakeri, Mardanapalli, Attipalli, and Dasaripalli. 1,200 Christians, mostly Shudras, form the congregations. The grand total for the district is 14,391. Brahmins and Kshatriyas excepted, all the higher castes are fairly represented in these numbers. The above details have been furnished by the courtesy of Monsignor Lavonan, the Bishop of Pondicherry. The devotion to duty shown by these missionaries is beyond praise, but their lives are so retired that, unless sought out, their presence in the neighborhood might long be unsuspected. Men of high culture and sometimes of high birth give up all in Europe to live and fare like the native peasantry for whom they labor and subsist on a pittance which is thought barely sufficient for a native clerk. For 30 and 40 years, they live this life of monotony but high endeavor, never returning to Europe of their own free will. Both in the past and present, they have conciliated the admiration of all but their most bigoted opponents, and not rarely their loss is felt as a loss to the whole district. When, at the close of the famine in which his efforts had been unceasing, Father Brizard of Salem put on the crown of immortality, there was not a European in the district who did not regret him as a friend. The famine orphans of the subdivision were handed over en masse to Père Thirion of Dharmapuri, in whom the little waifs have found a kind and indulgent father. The disparity of numbers between the Protestant and Roman Catholic converts is generally accounted for on the ground that the Protestant missionaries are more exacting in the test applied before baptism, but the antiquity of the Salem mission is quite enough to account for the difference. The following is a translation of a memorandum in French which Père Thirion was kind enough to draw up. Saint Franco Xavier, Apostle of India, came from Portugal to Goa in 1540 and made innumerable converts in the 10 years during which he preached the gospel in this land. Towards the end of the 16th century, the Reverend Jesuit fathers took up the work which he had commenced and had much success in preaching over the whole of south of India, where they founded many flourishing missions. In 1606, the celebrated Robert de Nobili, a relation of the Pope Julius III and of the Cardinal Bellarmine, arrived in India and entered on a career of preaching which lasted 40 years, during which he worked incalculable good by his wisdom and indefatigable zeal. Deeply versed in all the languages and customs of the country, he made himself all things to all men to win the people to the faith. He adopted the habit of life of the Brahmins and observed all the acharams or customs of the higher castes, and crowned his work by founding the Christian church at Madura. After this, accompanied by his Brahmin disciples and native servants, he turned his steps to Salem about the year 1630 to carry his mission towards the north. Passing by Trichinopalli, he reached Shendamangalam in Namakkal, capital of the state of Ramachandra Nayakar, a tributary to the king of Madura, where the great sannyasi was received with all distinction, the king himself offering him an handsome site on which to build a church. The missionary, however, thought himself bound to push on to Salem and was forced for the moment to decline the generous offer. Salem was then the capital of the state of Salapatti Nayakan, another chief tributary to the king of Madura. At the very outset, the population of Salem manifested an unmistakable hostility to the efforts of the father Robert de Nobili and refused him everything, so that he was reduced to pray for shelter in an abandoned chavadi outside the town. There he was subjected to all sorts of privations and contemptuous treatment, and at last fell dangerously ill. His followers, however, failed to persuade him to leave this inhospitable city. Warrior by nature, he set himself resolutely to conquer or die in planting the cross in this country. After he had endured a severe and long trial of 40 days of suffering, the pagans, touched by so much virtue and patience, came in crowds to visit the new guru and to listen to his teaching. The brother of the king of Satyamangalam, then a refugee at Salem, was with his 4 sons amongst the most assiduous attendants. A great number of persons of distinction received baptism. The king of Salem received the desire to see the great man and hear his doctrine, which filled him with wonder, and he ended by bestowing on him his confidence and true friendship, and defended him against the calumnies and plots of the priests of the idols, who were stirred with anger against the preacher and sought to persecute him. The Brahmins and other experts had numerous conferences before the king, and the missionary, refuting victoriously all their fables, had little difficulty in showing to them the sublimity and sanctity of the Christian doctrine. From this date, AD 1630, Christianity was established in Salem, and a fair church surmounted by the cross arose in the middle of the town. That the crusade developed itself towards the north, and that missionaries came from Salem and neighboring places to preach the gospel in the kingdom of Mysore and especially at Koilur Dharmapuri, may be presumed from the fact that in 1675, or 14 years after the death of Robert de Nobili at Mylapore in Madras, the Reverend Father Jean de Brutto passed through Satyamangalam on his way to visit the 2 missionaries installed at Dharmapuri. Of these, both Europeans, one was named Susyapir Swamiyar and the other Antoniar. Tradition has it that in the outset, a European priest was assigned exclusively to minister to the higher castes and was called the priest of the Brahmins, while another, called Pandaram Sami, ministered to the pariahs of the neighborhood so that caste prejudices might not stay the progress of conversions. Father D. Brito was subsequently recalled to Europe by his superiors, but again returning, made his way by Jinji through the wild forests of the Javadis to Dharmapuri. Thence he proceeded to his mission in the Marava country, where he was put to death in an outburst of fanaticism after having baptized more than 10,000 pagans in a single year. He has been happy in his death, being the only canonized martyr of India. Towards the middle of the 18th century, religion advanced its standards in all directions throughout the country, and the number of converts is said to have reached a total of 3 millions when the deplorable suppression of the Company of Jesus took place. This was a misfortune felt as irreparable to the present day. For the missions of India, founded at the price of so many privations, being deprived of their missionaries, many of the Christian communities were lost, and it was not until towards the commencement of the 19th century that the work could be seriously taken in hand. Then Vicar Apostolio, bishops with missionaries were sent forth by the sovereign pontiff to sustain and re-establish the missions of India. First, about 1785, Monsignor D. Tabraka and Motet, and after them, about 1795, Monsignor Dolicha and the famous Abbe Dubois came to Pondicherry, followed in 1819 by Monsignor D. Helicarnasse and Monsignor Jarge. The little church at Koilur was enlarged and rebuilt in 1822 by the missionary Sahadeva Nadar, and again enlarged and restored under Monsignor Bonnand D. Drusipare, by Monsignor Frican, and again by Monsignor Guyon. Lastly, it was completely demolished and rebuilt on a much larger scale with a cupola and 9 naves under Monsignor Godel by Monsignor Thirion, now in charge. But even this does not suffice for the Christian population, and it has been found necessary to build at Koilur a large number of chavadis to shelter the numerous pilgrims who come from great distances to the grand festivals. The missionaries are grateful for the favor of government, under which, by the Thope rules, a large thope tax-free has been planted for the convenience of the public. But they deplore the loss of an annual grant of rupees 42 granted by government to their ancient and historic church. At the time of the conquest of Mysore, the Abbe Dubai assisted with his sympathy and valuable advice in the struggle against Tipu Sultan. Besides the natural sympathy of a common European origin, there were other reasons why the celebrated Abbé should interest himself in the success of the English arms, namely the hostility and cruelty which the Christian community had experienced at the hands of Tipu Sultan, who, without any provocation, had ordered the destruction of the important church at Koilur and of another at Kadagatur, and had exported by force to Mysore half the Christian population whom he sought to convert to Mohammedanism. The rupees 42 annually given by government were regarded as a compensation to the mission for the losses and injuries which they had suffered at the hands of the Muslims. It may be hoped that my feeble voice may be heard and approved by a generous government, so that the small but valued arms may be restored to the Church of Koilur, honored but lately by the presence of the Governor of Madras and other distinguished representatives of English rule. We have established, according to our feeble means, a school for little orphan girls and neophytes, superintended by 3 nuns from Pondicherry. This little institution prospers and promises to work in its little sphere for the regeneration of Indian women, hitherto neglected. Note: to understand the concessions made by the missionaries of former times to caste usages, reference is necessary to the different circumstances of time and place which rendered them legitimate, and they were, in part at least, sanctioned after long controversies by the legitimate authority of the Pope. Since those times, usages opposed to religion were ruthlessly and irrevocably abolished among the Christians, despite the defection of a great number whose religious impressions were not fully consolidated. If it was permissible to a philosopher to say, perish the world for an idea, still stronger reasons existed to justify the Pope and the missionaries in saying the same for the scrupulous maintenance of the ascertained faith of God. In former times, usages, legitimate or deemed a matter of indifference, were observed and maintained by the missionaries as suggested by human wisdom and by the example of Saint Paul, who made himself all things to all men that he might win them all to Christ. And as the Saviour did not disdain to become man to save men, so in the same spirit the missionaries of former times did not disdain to become Indians to save the Indians. And we, their successors, are bound to make the caste those concessions legitimate and approved by the superiors and by the more common wisdom of mankind. End of quote. Cemeteries. Under the heading of ecclesiastical, the cemeteries of the district deserve notice. Many brave men who died in the service of their country lie buried in them, and the inscriptions over their tombs become daily more and more illegible. It is not inappropriate, therefore, to append a list of the Europeans who have found a last resting place in the district, so far as their names are known. Year, name, parentage, and age. In the Salem Cemetery, year 1813, 21st April, Lieutenant Charles Thomas Ellis of His Majesty's 1st Regiment of Royal Scots, aged 25 years, 9 months, and 9 days. Year 1814, 4th June, Charles Carpenter, Esquire, of the Honourable Company Civil Service on the Madras establishment, aged 44 years. 1818, 17th September, William Heath, son of Josiah Marshall Heath and Charlotte Catherine Heath, his wife, born May 20th, 1818. 1820, January 19th, Lieutenant Colonel Fahrizwan, His Majesty's 53rd Regiment, aged 34 years, died at Namakkal of cholera. This is probably a cenotaph. 1823, 16th January, Maria Rosalie, wife of W.D. Davis, Esquire, aged 27 years. 1824, 16th June, Mrs. Anne West. 1824, 26th June, Robert John Hunter, Esquire, aged 28 years. 1824, 5th July, Louisa, wife of Robert J. Hunter, Esquire, aged 24 years. 1828, 5th February, Jane, the beloved wife of Captain H. Coils of the 28th Regiment Native Infantry. 1829, 7th May, Eliza Steffe, the beloved wife of the Reverend H. Crisp in her 24th year. 1830, 28th February, Edward Robert Hargrave, Esquire of the Madras Civil Service and 18 years Collector of the Zilla of Salem, aged 56 years. 1831, 22nd February, Ensign John Harrison Stapleston of the 39th Regiment Native Infantry, aged 20 years. 1831, 2nd June, Captain Thomas Robson of the 26th Regiment Madras Native Infantry, aged 40 years. 1831, 28th October, the Reverend Henry Crisp, missionary of the London Missionary Society, aged 28 years. 1833, 4th February, Robert Deacon, captain in the 18th Regiment Native Infantry, aged 34 years. 1833, 18th July, George Campbell, the infant son of Captain George Byrne, 14th Regiment Native Infantry, aged 11 months. 1835, 24th March, John Simons, lieutenant in the 18th Regiment Native Infantry, aged 82 years. 1836, 29th May, John MacDonald Minto, captain of the 15th Regiment Madras Native Infantry, aged 33 years. 1837, 23rd, 24th and 25th July, Mary Ann Bevan and Emma Julia and Adele, the wife and daughters of Captain Henry Bevan of the 27th Regiment Native Infantry, all of cholera. 1837, 11th September, James Glenn, Esquire, late of the Madras Medical Service. 1839, 4th February, James Corbett Taylor. 1839, 25th March, Archibald Douglas, late Lieutenant in the Corps of Madras Engineers. 1839, 28th March, Louisa Margaret, the beloved daughter of William and Maria Clark, aged 4 years, 7 months and 13 days. 1839, 18th August, Mrs. Anna Walton, the beloved wife of the Reverend George Walton, aged 36 years and 3 months. 1840, 18th August, James Moreton Walhouse. 1841, 9th June, Reverend George Walton, missionary at Salem, aged 39 years and 6 months. 1842, 6th April, Isabella Helen, daughter of John and Charlotte Helen Cadenhead, aged 1 year, 2 months and 23 days. 1842, 23rd April, Eugene Chatelier Merchant, aged 30 years, 1 month and 5 days. 1842, 1st December, Frederick Mole, Esquire, Madras Civil Service, aged 80 years. 1845, 17th March, Emilia, daughter of Charles and Emilia Ann Mortlock, aged 33 years, 10 months and 10 days. 1846, 8th February, Robert Fitzsimmons, late head writer of the Salem Collector's Kacheri, died of cholera at Ghazipur. 1846, 25th May, Charles Warner, son of Captain Lancaster of the Horse Artillery. 1846, 6th June, Archibald Hamilton, Madras Civil Service, aged 27 years. 1847, 14th September, Mary Ann, the beloved wife of the late Mr. Luke Madden of Chittoor, aged 43 years and 6 months. 1848, 10th June, D. Cadenhead, Esquire, aged 88 years. 1849, 16th April, Mary Ann Sophia, daughter of the late W.O. Shakespeare, Esquire, aged 26 years and 6 months. 1849, 22nd June. Louisa Isabella, daughter of G. Quanbro, Lieutenant, Indian Navy, and Wilhelmina, his wife, aged 3 years, 8 months, and 12 days. I think there's a mistake here. It's probably some 30 years or something. 1851, 5th April, Reverend C. Josiah Taylor of the Church Missionary Society, missionary at Panay-Vidali, Tinnevelli, aged 43 years. 1858, 3rd February, Heinrich George, son of the Reverend C. Ox, and Sarah, his wife, aged 3 years and 6 months. 1853, 9th August, Josepha Jennings, the beloved wife of Mr. J. L. Bantleman, merchant, aged 27 years and 8 months. 1854, 28th January, Mr. Cosmo D. Santos of the medical establishment, aged 65 years. 1854, 30th May, Edmund Robert Joseph, the infant son of Mr. J. L. Bantleman, aged 1 year and 3 months. 1854, August, Thomas, infant son of Esther Ram by her former husband, Mr. C. Grove, aged 9 months. 1858, 15th April, Emily, the beloved daughter of James and Leila Fisher, aged 11 months and 21 days. 1860, 18th June, Emma, beloved daughter of Major E.B. Marsek, 13th Regiment, Native Infantry, and of Louisa, his wife, in the 4th year of her age. 1861, 31st May, Leila, the beloved wife of Mr. James Fisher, aged 21 years, 8 months, and 28 days. 1861, 10th July, Major General Nicholas Fenwick Johnson, aged 58 years. 1862, 16th December, Mrs. Wilhelmina Amelia Gilles, the second and beloved daughter of Apothecary George Sampson of the Madras Medical Establishment, died at Munchavadi, aged 15 years and 4 days. 1862, 16th December, Esther, the beloved wife of Mr. C. Ram, aged 27 years. 1868, 10th March, William Green, late Sergeant of the D Company, 2nd Battalion, Madras Artillery, and Inspector of Police, Chittoor District, aged 47 years. 1863, 28th April, Henry Stewart Hill, Lieutenant in the Madras Staff Corps, aged 28 years. 1865, 14th October, T.H. Tate. 1867, 30th June, Maria Leonora, wife of W. Bolth, Esquire, pensioned deputy collector, aged 59 years. 1867, 27th July, the infant son of Captain and Mrs. Picton Warlow. 1868, 8th November, Montagu Edwin Food, Captain, Madras Staff Corps, Sappers and Miners, 4th son of Colonel H.S. Food, Madras Artillery, aged 32 years, 8 months and 8 days, shot accidentally by his own shikari who was trying to save him from a bear. 1889, 25th May, George Frederick Fisher, aged 25 years. 1869, 21st September, Weir Leaventhorpe, the little son of Charles N. Pochin and Annie, his wife. 1870, 15th March, Henry Teller, missionary, aged 25 years. 1870, Charles Norman Pochin of the Madras Civil Service, aged 44 years. 1870, 13th August, Guy A. Bloomfield, aged 2 years, 3 months and 29 days. 1871, 15th May, Emma Jane, the beloved wife of Mr. William Brown, jailer, Central Jail, Salem, aged 26 years. 1871, 8th October, Francis Gerald, son of Captain Picton Warlow, and Eleanor, his wife, aged 8 months and 8 days. 1871, 10th October, Emma Eliza, the beloved child of John and Anne Bower, aged 6 months and 4 days, died at the Salem railway station. 1873, 21st February, James Fisher, age not given. 1873, 27th October, Edward Frederick Elliott, Madras Civil Service, Judge of Salem, aged 39 years, 4 months and 21 days. 1874, 14th December, Elizabeth Harriet, daughter of Thomas and Mary Ann Clark, aged 27 years, 11 months and 4 days. 1875, 16th August, Ellen, the beloved wife of Thomas Bailey, Assistant Traffic Manager, Madras Railway, aged 33 years. 1875, the Reverend A. Yunker, missionary, Church Missionary Society, aged 61 years. 1875, 5th October, Clara Maud, the beloved daughter of John and Matilda James. 1878, 19th April, Percy O'Connell, the dear son of B.C. and M. Dunphy, aged 8 months and 8 days. 1878, 18th September, Louisa, the beloved wife of Edward Simmons, aged 23 years, 3 months and 3 days. In the compound of the London Mission, Salem, 1846, 5th May, Miss Anne Mashell, aged 44 years. 1861, 17th June, the Reverend J. M. Leckler, aged 56 years and 9 months. Chevroy Hills, Protestant Cemetery. 1853, 31st December, Constance Johnston, eldest child of William Johnston, MD, HEICS, and Agnes, his wife, aged 5 years, 9 months and 14 days. 1855, 23rd June, Norman Morrison, Esquire, aged 49 years. 1855, 23rd July, Emily Ramsay, daughter of H.D. Cook, Esquire, Madras Civil Service. 1855, 10th August, Catherine Ramsay, wife of H.D. Cook, Esquire. 1859, 24th August, Walter Dykes, aged 1 year and 7 months, the beloved child of the Reverend B. Davis, B.A., and of Anne, his wife. 1859, 5th September, Val Jordan McMaster, aged 1 year, 8 months and 5 days. 1859, 10th September, Florence Emily, aged 5 years and 9 months, the beloved child of the Reverend P. Davis, B.A., and of Anne, his wife. 1860, 3rd July, William Martin, aged 47 years and 6 months. 1860, 24th August, Constance, infant daughter of Captain A.H. Marsack, 15th Regiment Native Infantry, and of Constance, his wife. 1861, 22nd August, Margaret, infant daughter of Robert Maxwell of Madras, and Jane, his wife, aged 1 day. 1861, 28th August, Jane, wife of Robert Maxwell, aged 38 years. 1863, 30th June, Gertrude Eliza, youngest daughter of Major and Mrs. Hunter, aged 5 days. 1886, 29th June, Howard Barth Leckler, aged 10 years. 1868, 9th April, Edith May, infant daughter of Reverend W. E. Morris of Salem, aged 8 months. 1888, 12th July, Reginald Percival Davis, aged 2 years and 22 days. 1869, 20th April, C.F. Chamier, Esquire, Civil and Session Judge of Salem. 1869, 18th May, Bernard Anthony Daly, aged 48 years and 6 months. 1872, 10th September, Catherine Lenora Granger, aged 4 months and 15 days. 1872, 17th September, Robert Edward Orr, aged 1 year and 17 days. 1872, 28th October, Alice Florence Norfor, aged 17 years and 6 months. 1873, 3rd April, William Clark, aged 53 years. 1874, 3rd June, Johann Marie Anderson, aged 1 year and 2 months. 1875, 28th June, Mary Ann, the beloved wife of the Reverend J.W. Gordon of the London Mission, Visakhapatnam, aged 64 years. 1876, 26th January, Arthur John Dodson, CE of the MIOC, aged 57 years. 1877, 8th October, Wilhelmina, daughter of William and Emily King, aged 1 day. List of persons buried who have no tombs over them. Mrs. Ball, Mrs. Ram, Mrs. H. Short, Mr. W. Short, Mr. Montserrat's infant, Mr. Foote's infant, Major Huddleston's son, Mrs. Daly. Tablets in the church. 1848, 10th June, Duncan Cadenhead, Esquire, aged 38 years. 1850, 30th January, W. E. Lockhart, aged Esquire, for 5 years collector of this district, who died at Hosur and was interred at that place. 1854, 5th June, Caroline Harriet Emily, second and beloved daughter of J. R. Boyson, Esquire, and Matilda Margaret, his wife, aged 4 years and 11 months. 1854, 21st June, Matilda Margaret, wife of John Robert Boyson of Madras, solicitor, aged 29 years. 1861, 31st May, Leila, the beloved wife of Mr. James Fisher, aged 31 years, 8 months and 28 days. 1861, 23rd October, Louis Blenkinsop, Esquire, Engineer, Department Public Works, aged 34 years, buried at Harur. Green Hills Cemetery. 1866, Mrs. M. R. 1875, 15th February, Mrs. Eliza Cobb, widow of the late G. Cobb, Esquire, aged 49 years, 3 months and 6 days. 1877, 14th November, Eleanor Gilbert, aged 1 year, 5 months and 10 days. Persons buried who have no tombs over them. Charles Ernest Edward Grant, Mary Jane, Edmund Jane, Richard Jane, Mrs. Charles Grant. Lutheran Mission Cemetery. 1876, 12th May, A. Fritz Mayer, aged 4 years, 10 months and 16 days. Roman Catholic Cemetery. 1872, 7th May, Mary Ann, the dearly beloved wife of James Campbell, aged 46 years. 1876, 30th June, Carolyn Burns, wife of veterinary surgeon H. Burns, R.A., aged 29 years. Persons buried who have no tombs over them. Mr. Mayers, Captain Markham's son, Mrs. Delacote. Namakkal, 1821, 21st June, Brevet Captain G.W. Dower of the 1st Regiment of Native Infantry, aged 30 years. 1821, 26th June, Richard, son of Brevet Captain G.W. Dower, aged 6 years. Trichengur Taluk, Sankagiri Durgam, 1808, 27th August, William Ash, Lieutenant 1st Battalion, 7th Regiment Native Infantry, aged 22 years. 1820, 18th June, Lieutenant Robert Waters of the 25th Regiment Madras Native Infantry, son of Robert Waters, Esquire, Bloomsbury Square, London, aged 28 years. Atur, 1799, 6th May, John Murray, Lieutenant Colonel, Commander of the 1st Regiment of Native Cavalry in the Honorable East India Company service, aged 50 years. 1828, 5th February, Jane, wife of Captain Coyle, 28th Regiment, interred at Salem. Uttangarai Taluk, Irumattur, 1846, 28th December, Octavius Orlando Bridgman, son of the late Major Gunning, 10th Regiment Native Infantry, aged 7 years. Harur, 1861, 23rd October, L.B. Louis Blenkinsop, reference tablet in Aircard Church, Supra. Dharmapuri Taluk, Dharmapuri 4th Glacis, 1819, 16th October, James Ives, Esquire, late a Lieutenant Colonel in the Honorable Company's Madras establishment, aged 37 years. Distinguished himself at the head of his corps at the Battle of Mahidpur. Died of a return of fever contracted in the zealous discharge of his duty in the field. Erected by his widow, Maria Wilhelmina. 1875, 2nd November. Thomas Hartnell, aged 25 years, 6 months and 22 days. 1875, 8th November. Maria, daughter of Thomas Hartnell, aged 2 years, 10 months and 17 days. 1877, 30th June. Little Ali Albert Ascot, the beloved son of Charles Alfred and Jane Agnes Montgomery, aged 1 year and 8 days. Adaman Kottai, 1846, 8th February. Mrs. Cheresna Yonker, wife of the late Mr. John Yonker, aged 57 years. 1846, 21st March. Captain J.W. Ramsay, 44th Regiment Native Infantry, aged 49 years. Pennagaram, 1793, 13th July. Captain James Turing, Commandant of the garrison of Pinagra and the 4th Battalion Native Infantry. Tirupattur Taluk, in Tirupattur, 1861, 2nd May. Gunner Robert Jones, a troop, Madras Horse Artillery. 1869, 26th February. Thomas Leonard, son of Alfred and Angelica Sharp, aged 3 months and 23 days. 1869, 21st May. Arthur Alexander, son of Joseph and Agnes Reitman, aged 2 years, 1 month and 19 days. Tirupattur Taluk, continued Tirupattur. 1870, 9th September. George Alexander, only son of Samuel Thomas and Anne Fisher, aged 10 months and 26 days. 1877, 29th March. John Montgomery Caldwell, a Bengal Public Works officer sent to the Madras Presidency on famine relief works, aged 40 years, 4 months and 21 days. 1877, 6th April. Sophia Mary, daughter of Edward MacDonald and Maria Stevenson, aged 6 months. In the London Mission Church, Tirupattur. 1867, 28th December. Mary Jane, wife of the Reverend Morris Phillips of the London Mission, aged 24 years and 8 months. 1867, 29th December. Dora Lechler, daughter of the Reverend Morris Phillips, aged 5 days. Cholarpet, 1870, 11th April. William St. Clair Miller, aged 11 years, 6 months and 11 days. 1875, 22nd May. James Freeman, coffee planter, Shavroy Hills, aged 81 years, 7 months and 25 days. Vaniambadi, 1856, 25th June. Henrietta Amelia, daughter of John Cornell and Henrietta Mitford, aged 7 years and 11 months. This tomb is on the side of the road from Natrampalli to Vaniambadi. Krishnagiri Taluk, Krishnagiri Town. 1857, 5th August. Sarah Charles, the wife of Captain J. Wright, led 1st NV Battalion, aged 26 years. There are many other tombs in this cemetery, some of great age, but not one of them unfortunately bears any inscription. Rayakota, 1795, 12th November. Elizabeth Kaiser. The rest of the inscription is illegible. 1802, 20th March. Captain John Innes of the Honorable East India Company's service, aged 40 years. 1806, 31st July. Thomas W. Crape, son of Lewis Cress, store sergeant, aged 5 years, 1 month and 20 days. 1811, 29th November. Colonel R.M. Strange. 1819, 19th November. Lieutenant Alexander Campbell of the Rifle Corps, aged 28 years. 1821, 18th April. Ensign William Roy, late of the 5th Extra Battalion of Native Infantry, aged 29 years. 1823, 25th February. Oliver Lloyd, Lieutenant, 1st Battalion, 25th Native Infantry, aged 19 years. 1831, 7th November. Lieutenant Henry Carrell, 9th Regiment, Native Infantry, aged 28 years. 1834 September. Captain W.P. Burton, erected by his widow. 1837 8th December. John, son of Sergeant Major John and Elizabeth Rarter, His Majesty's 15th Dragoons, aged 4 years and 9 months. 1843 8th October. Hubert John, eldest son of Captain John Campbell and Maria, his wife, aged 7 years. 1845 20th December. Christiana Clementina, daughter of Apothecary Christopher and Grace Elizabeth Oliver, his wife, aged 1 year, 8 months and 12 days. Hosur Taluk, Hosur, 1850, 30th January. Walter Elliot Lockhart, MCS, Collector of Salem, aged 49 years. 1842, 5th February. John Edward Bunkall, aged 38 years and 9 days. There is another tomb but no inscription. Mattakeri, 1842, 20th May. Rhoda, daughter of John Ratcliffe, Esquire, Civil Service, aged 3 months. 1843, 10th June. Patrick, infant son of Captain John Hill, AC General, 24th Regiment, Native Infantry. 1846, 19th October. William, son of John Ratcliffe, Esquire of the Madras Civil Service, aged 3 years and 8 months. 1850, 1st September. Elizabeth, daughter of Sergeant William Farmer, aged 1 month and 2 days. 1855, 10th August. Catherine Lennon, daughter of James and E. Lennon, D. Troop, M.A. pensioner, aged 11 years and 10 months. 1857, 31st August. John Peter, son of W.A. Borthwick, clerk, Remount Office, aged 6 years and 6 months. 1858, 30th April. Eva Joanna, child of Matilda and Charles Evers, second apothecary, aged 1 year and 11 months. 1858, 5th May. Edwin Emilius, child of Matilda and Charles Evers, second apothecary, aged 3 years and 3 months. 1863, 16th December. Alice Louisa, daughter of Mr. J.P. Barringer, overseer, DPW, aged 8 months. 1868, 16th January. Alexander, son of Andrew and Margaret Milne, aged 2 months. 1868, April. Mary, infant daughter of F.G. Shaw, Esquire, staff veterinary surgeon, aged 20 days. 1888, 9th May. Florence, daughter of Catherine and John Peel. 1888, 31st July. Catherine, the beloved wife of subconductor John Peel, Remount Depot, aged 38 years. 1870, 29th June, John Murray, apothecary, Madras establishment, aged 62 years, 7 months and 22 days. 1870, 30th July, Elizabeth, daughter of William Borthwick, aged 6 years, 4 months and 20 days. 1872, 18th June, Harriet Mabel, daughter of Samuel Wells, MD, aged 7 months and 17 days. 1872, 11th September, Mr. Samuel Graham, the respected coachman of 6 successive governors of Madras, aged 52 years. Why would this respected coachman of 6 successive governors of Madras die in Hosur? Strange. 1872, 26th October, Rose Adeline Charlotte, daughter of W. and Anne Honey, aged 5 years, 5 months and 18 days. 1873, 20th April, Harriet, wife of Samuel Wells, MD, aged 35 years, 4 months and 17 days. 1876, 15th March, Catherine Frederica, the beloved wife of Sergeant D.G. Mootham, aged 33 years and 16 days. 1876, 13th August, Major Glover, Madras veterans. 1878, 18th January, Henry Clement, son of D.G. and Mary Mootham, aged 8 months and 1 day. 1878, 13th October, Walter Sidney Morse, son of F.W. Morse, Esquire, assistant engineer, aged 2 months and 13 days. 1879, 15th November, J.R. Lowry, Esquire, executive engineer, DPW, aged 55 years. Education. Higher and middle class education is maintained or aided by government from provincial funds, as is also female education, while schools of the lower class are supported by or aided from local fund boards and the Salem municipality. The inspecting agency consists of a deputy inspector for each circle and 5 inspecting schoolmasters, all under the supervision of the inspector of schools, 4th division. Uttankarai is the only taluk in which there is not a middle class school. In Atur and Trichangod, there are aided middle class schools, and in each of the others, a government school. In each circle, there is a normal school maintained by the local fund board, at present stationed at Salem and Krishnagiri, in which men are trained to be masters and taught in the course required in the elementary schools for the standards under the result system. At Salem, the government school, formerly called the Zilla School, was raised to the status of a second grade college in 1879 and prepares students for the first examination in arts. In addition to the government and aided schools, there are many Payal schools as well as the London Mission High School, Salem, which receive no grants from government or the local boards, so that the following table, including only such schools as are under inspection, does not show the whole number of persons under instruction in the district. Description of schools, their number, number of pupils, cost per mensem, and remarks. Government College. Number 1. Number of pupils 344. Cost per mensem 553 rupees, 2 annas 10 pice. Government College Middle Class Schools 5 in number. Number of pupils 407. Cost per mensem 580 rupees, 15 annas 1 pice. Government College Girls Schools. Government Girls Schools. Number of schools 3. Number of pupils 152. Cost per mensem 122 rupees, 4 annas 8 pice. Middle class grant in 8 schools, 6 in number. Number of pupils 308. Cost per mensem 349 rupees, 15 annas 10 pice. Middle class municipal schools, 2 in number. Number of pupils 234. Cost per mensem 158 rupees 14 annas 4 pies. Schools maintained by local fund board. Normal schools 2 schools. Number of pupils 35. Cost per mensem 240 rupees. Local fund board. Salary system schools. Number of schools 9. Number of pupils 578. Cost per mensem 248 rupees 11 annas 5 pies. Local fund board combined system schools. Number of schools 70. Number of pupils 1874. Cost per mensem 989 rupees 9 annas 7 pies. Result system schools. Number of schools 66. Number of pupils 1108. Cost per mensem 944 rupees 15 annas. Payal schools, unaided schools. Number 109. Number of pupils 1403. Cost per mensem 231 rupees 12 annas 1 pies. The figures in columns 1 and 2 refer to the second and third quarters of 1880, and the cost is the average for 1879 to 80. So in total, there are 273 educational establishments, and the number of pupils studying in them 6,443. Great interest is shown by the people of this district in education, and it is to be hoped that, notwithstanding the famine, which has proved a severe check to educational progress, a marked advance will be shown at the census of 1881 as compared with the returns of the previous census, when only 2.8% of the population could read and write. There were then, according to the returns, only 190 schools in the district, but the Local Fund Act passed in 1871 gave a stimulus to popular education by providing the funds for its extension, and in 1874-75 there were 230 schools, government or aided, with 7,140 pupils. This does not include all the unaided Payal schools, which may be taken at an average of 12 per taluk or 108 in all. Allowing 10 children to each Payal school, about 1,080 children must have been receiving elementary education from this source. An attempt was made in 1873 to force the union system on the district, according to which villages were to be clubbed together and a house rate levied for educational purposes. But the late Lord Hobart refused to be a party to forcing the poor to pay for what they did not want, and this scheme fortunately fell to the ground. The educationalists have so interlarded their system with such words as combined, mixed, primary, results grant system, salary aided system, local fund schools, grant in aid, middle schools, and etc., that it is not very easy for an outsider to master the shibboleths, but good work is being done. Quite recently, an educational grant in aid code has been published by order of government, which considerably modifies the rules previously in force. It will be found in the supplement to the Fort St. George Gazette, 24th February 1880. Forest area. The forests, with the exception of the reserves, have not been demarcated. Hence, their exact area cannot be ascertained. It has, however, been roughly calculated at 2,251 square miles. For the better supervision of the forests, which are very scattered, they have been apportioned into ranges as follows. The Atur range comprises 2 taluks, viz. Namakkal and Atur, under the charge of a forest ranger. In the Namakkal taluk, the only forests are those of the Kollimalais, which have been roughly calculated at 216 square miles. The chief timbers met with are Vengai, Pterocarpus marsupium, Nammai, Conocarpus latifolia, Blackwood, Dalbergia latifolia, Kadukai, Terminalia cebula, Tamarind, Tamarindus indica, Jack, Katmaddi, Terminalia tomentosa, Sampangi, Michelia champaka, and Sandalwood, Santalum album. The sandalwood is worked departmentally. Other timbers are worked under the license system. In the Atur Taluk are situated the northern slopes of the Pachimalais, the Periya Kalrayan and the Chilna Kalrayan private forests. The area of all these hill forests is about 35 square miles. The chief timbers are those already enumerated under the Namakkal Taluk, together with Acha, Hardwickia binata, Selluvanji, Albizia odoratissima, sandalwood and timbers designated as belonging to the first class, such as Vengai, teak, and etc., are worked departmentally, other timbers being worked under the license system. Until recently, the Chinnakalrayan hill forests were leased to government by the Pattagar on a payment of rupees 12,500 for 20 years, but the lease was annulled by orders of government White GO number 3370 dated 7th December 1877. The lease of the Periyakalrayan forest is also under litigation. The Salem range comprises the Salem and Trichandur taluks and the forests of the Chevrais, the Bodamalai and the Arunuthimalai, northeast of Salem, total area about 300 square miles, under the charge of a forest ranger. The chief timbers are teak, stunted Tecrona grandis, blackwood, Dalbergia latifolia, Mali, Cedrella tuna, Nammai, Conocarpus latifolia, Kadukai, Terminalia chibula, satinwood, Chicrasia tabularis, Acha, Hardwickia binata, Vengai, Pterocarpus marsupium, Selluvanji, Albizia odoratissima, Catacu, Acacia catacu, and sandalwood, Santalum album. The working is partly departmental and partly licensed. The Harur range comprises the taluks of Uttangarai and Tirupattur under the charge of a forest ranger. In the Uttangarai taluk are situated the Chitteri hill forests, the western slopes of the Arya Gaundannad, the Kottaipatti and Tirthamalai forests, and a portion of the Javadi hill forests. Total area about 300 square miles. Private forests. The timbers are similar to those in the Salem range. Departmental filling and the license system are in force. The Nayamalai is a tract of private forest to the east of the Chevrais, belonging to the Mittadar of Chekadipatti. In the Tirupattur Taluk are situated a large portion of the Javadis and the Yelagiris, total area about 200 square miles. The timbers are the same as in the Salem range and worked departmentally. Besides the Nayamalais, a part of the Arya Gaundanad, the Naikanur Jagir on the Javadis, and the Vellakuttai Jagir belong to private parties. The subdivision range comprises the taluks of Hosur, Dharmapuri, and Krishnagiri under the charge of a sub-assistant conservator. The Hosur taluk contains the hill forests south of Denkanikota towards the Kaveri, namely the Melagiri, Kotagiri, and Manchu hills rising to about 4,000 feet, the Bilikal hill forests west of Anchitti, and the Achavud tracts on the banks of the Kaveri. The total area is about 500 square miles. Chief timbers teak, Tectona grandis, blackwood, Dalbergia latifolia, Vengai, Pterocarpus marsupium, Acha, Hardwickia binata, Kadukai, Terminalia chibula, Mali, Cedrella tuna, Nammai, Conocarpus latifolia, Selluvanji, Albizia odoratissima, Bilvaram, Vilvamaram, Egle marmelos, and sandalwood, Santalum album, all worked departmentally. The Dharmapuri taluk contains the Gutrayan hill forests and the Pennagaram Achau tracts area, about 450 square miles. The timbers are the same as in the Hosur taluk and worked departmentally. The Krishnagiri taluk contains the forests of the Maharajagad hill north of the Krishnagiri and the Rayakota forests. Area about 250 square miles. Timbers chiefly neem, Azadiracta indica, tamarind, Tamarindus indica, and various jungle woods worked under the license system. Reserves. Under the head of reserves are are included certain forest tracts which have been demarcated and surveyed. These have been formed into reserves for the supply of fuel. There are 10 along the southwest line of railway, viz. 6 near the Chevroy Hill Station, 1 at Mallapuram, 1 at Harur, 1 at Uttankarai, 2 blocks, 1 at Singarapet, and 2 a little to the south of the Bangalore branch between Tirupattur and Krishnagiri. The 4 reserves designated A, P, Ammaneri, and Kanjeri are all situated in the Athur Ghat, Chevroy Hill Railway Station, jungles close to Salem, through the center of which the railway line runs. The Pillapalli and Kariyappakombai reserves lie to the east of the Chevroy Hill Station. The Mallapuram Reserve abuts on the east side of the railway line, close to the Mallapuram railway station. The Harur Reserve is 6 miles east of the Morapur railway station. The Uttangarai Reserve is 4 miles and the Singarapet Reserve 12 miles east of the Samalpatti railway station. The D or Bargur Reserve is 5 miles south of the Bangalore line and 16 miles west of Tirupattur. The E Reserve is 2 miles south of the Bangalore line and 18 miles west of Tirupattur. The trees met with in the reserves are mostly good fuel yielding trees, of which the following are some of those most commonly found: Gisaiphus glabrata, Karukattan, Prosopis spicigera, Parambai, Conocarpus latifolia, Nammai, Dicrostachys cinerea, Vadatala, Acacia leucofloea, Velvelum, Cassia fistula, Cone, Albizia odoratissima, Whale Vage, Albizia lebec, Vage, Premna tomentosa, Podanginari, Caparis pyrifolia, Sangatira, Erythroxylon indicum, Semblichan, Grevia rauthi, Adave, Strychnos nux vomica, Yeti, Pongamia glabra, Pungam. Besides these, there are the Acacia amara, Turingi, the Vrightia tinctoria, Pala, stunted satinwood, Diospyros montana, Albizia amara, the Babool, Neem, Cassia florida, Acacia catechu, Canthium didymum, Tamarind, and etc. The estimate was 4 tons of firewood fit for railway consumption per acre, but on experiment 2.5 tons was found to be the outturn. The following statement shows the acreage, expenditure, and receipts of each reserve from the date of formation up to 31st March 1880. I think it will be meaningless to read all this, the table. The table should be followed, glanced at by pausing the video. Plantations. There is only one plantation, viz. A small sandalwood plantation, 5 miles in extent, formed in 1874 on the Melagiri Hills, close to the Enkanikota. The elevation is about 3,000 feet. It is not proposed to extend it, as the reservation of tracts where there is a natural growth of this tree is deemed preferable to any attempts to plant on cleared land. The total forest revenue and expenditure of the district for the period of 5 years commencing from 1875 to 76 was as per subjoined statement. Years, receipts and expenditure. In the years 1875-76, the receipts were 84,015 rupees and the expenditure was 43,117 rupees. In the year 1876-77, the receipts were 59,920 rupees, 11 annas and 8 pies, and the expenditure was 25,816 rupees, 3 annas and 5 pies. In the year 1877 to 78, the receipts were 63,888 rupees, 10 annas, 2 pies, and the expenditure was 20,797 rupees, 7 annas, 7 pies. In the year 1878 to 79, the receipts were 60,837 rupees, 15 annas, 5 pies, and the expenditure was 20,417 rupees 6 annas 7 pice. In the year 1879 to 80, the receipts were 85,948 rupees 1 anna and 8 pice, and the expenditure was 20,628 rupees 12 annas and 7 pice. Further particulars will be found in Proceedings Board of Revenue number 996 dated 3rd March 1877 and GO number 1529 dated 22nd July 1879. Between 1862 and 1876, the revenue from sandalwood alone was rupees 1,47,537. The following woods were collected for the Paris exhibition: Acacia arabica or Karuvelam, common throughout the district in the plains, wood close-grained and tough, of a pale brownish red color, used for building purposes, axles and the naves, spokes and felloes of wheels, plowshares and etc. Acacia sundra, vernacular name Karungali, common in the plains. The timber is very hard, tolerably close-grained and durable, of a dark red color, veined with streaks of a darker shade. It is very heavy and is regarded as the best for posts in house building. The tree is abundant and grows to a fair size. Chips of this wood boiled in water produce a dark purple dye. The tree yields a gum similar to catechu. Acacia leucofloea, vernacular name Velvelum, grows on the plains and slopes of the hills within an elevation of 1,000 feet. Timber dark colored, hard and durable, seasons well and takes a fine polish. The wood is not much in demand. From the bark mixed with jaggery, an ardent spirit is distilled. The bark yields a tough and strong fiber used for large fishing nets and coarse cordage. The roots rival the pea maram in exhaling an offensive odor. Ailanthus excelsus, vernacular name pea maram, found in the forests of the plains. A large tree, wood light and not durable, exhales an intolerable stench, whence its name. Pea or feces plus maram, arbor. Employed in making doors of native houses. Alangium decapitalum, vernacular name Alangi, found in the jungles of the plains. Timber handsome and strong, of a dark color, used for agricultural and etc. purposes. Albizia amara thuringi, met with on the plains and slopes of the hills within an elevation of 1,000 feet. Timber hard and strong, of a dark reddish color, used for agricultural purposes, naves and felloes of wheels and etc. Albizia lebec, vernacular name Katwagai, found on the plains. Wood very durable, hard and close-grained, of a light color, used for building purposes, furniture and etc. Albizia odoratissima, vernacular name Selluvanji or Kalturunji, met with generally on the slopes of hills in the district up to an elevation of 2,500 feet. It is also occasionally met with on the plains, reaches a height of 30 to 40 feet. Heartwood of a rich brown color, tough and strong, seasons well, works freely, takes a fine polish and is fairly durable when kept dry. Used for naves, spokes, felloes, oil mills and furniture. The tree is very abundant and grows in almost any soil. Artocarpus integrifolia, vernacular name Pelamaram, met with on the hills, also cultivated on the plains. Timber at first somewhat pale colored, but afterwards assumes a darker tinge. Employed for making furniture, picture frames and etc. Atalantia monophylla, Cat elimichum, found in the plains. Shrub, wood hard, heavy and close-grained, of a yellow color, not much used. Azadiracta indica, vernacular name Vapum or Neem, Found in the jungles of the plains, also occasionally met with on the slopes of the hills up to an elevation of about 1000 feet and reaches a height of 20 to 30 feet. A useful and ornamental tree. Timber dark reddish color, hard, heavy, and durable. Used for building and agricultural purposes, also employed in making rice pounders and etc. The bark is remarkably bitter and is used medicinally by the natives. From the seed is expressed an acrid bitter oil of a deep yellow color used medicinally and for burning in lamps. A gum is also got from the bark and used medicinally as a stimulant. Bassia latifolia, vernacular name Cart illipai, found in the plains, timber hard and strong, of a dark color, used for naves of wheels and purposes of a like nature. And oil is expressed from the seeds which is used in lamps and in cooking by the poorer classes. Bassia longifolia illupai, found in the plains, used for beams and etc. A juice which exudes from the bark is used medicinally. An oil expressed from the fruit is used for lamps among the poorer classes. The cakes which are left after the oil is expressed are used as a substitute for soap. The wood is beautifully variegated, light brown and whitish, even grained, hard and strong. Bombax malabaricum, Cart ilavam, found in the plains and up to an elevation of about 2000 feet on the hills. Wood soft and spongy. Wood not used. The wool of the pods used for stuffing pillows, cushions, and etc. A gum exudes from the bark. Borassus flabelliformis, vernacular name Panaimaram, known as the Palmyra palm in English, largely distributed over the district. The stem, when old, becomes very hard and durable if protected from moisture, used for house building purposes, irrigation troughs, and etc. Canthium didymium, vernacular name Nekkani, found on the plains and slopes of hills at an elevation of within 1000 feet. A small tree, wood hard and of a darkish tinge, used for agricultural purposes. Cathartocarpus fistula, vernacular name Sarakonnai, found in the plains and slopes of the hills up to an elevation of 2000 to 3000 feet. Middling size, wood close grained and dark. Bark used for tanning. Cedrilla tuna, vernacular name Toonmaram, found in the forests on the hills at an elevation of about 3000 feet. The sapwood is whitish, the heartwood red or reddish brown, light, even, open grained, easily worked, and polishes well. Highly valued as a furniture wood, used for door panels and carving. From the flowers, a red or yellowish dye is made. Chicrasia tabularis, vernacular name Agalai or Shuli or Chittagong, found on the hills at an elevation of 2000 feet and upwards. A large tree with light reddish wood, very close grained. It is employed much by cabinet makers for furniture. The bark is powerfully astringent. Chloroxylon swietenia, vernacular name Purasu or satinwood, found on the plains and hills up to an elevation of about 1000 feet. The wood, which is of a yellow or light orange color, is close grained. It is durable and will stand immersion in water. Though not a tree of large size, planks of 12 or 15 inches broad may be obtained from it. It is very suitable for picture frames and ornamental decoration, and if well varnished will preserve its handsome appearance for a long time, but it is apt to split. Conocarpus latifolia, vernacular name Nammai or Vellai Nagamaram, found on the slopes and hills up to an elevation of 3000 feet. A large tree with smooth white grey bark. The wood is light colored with a purple heart. It is universally used for axe handles and poles for carrying loads. In many parts of the district, the axles of native carts, which have to carry heavy weights on rough roads, are made of it. It warps and splits in seasoning and, unless kept dry, is not very durable. It is specially esteemed for many economical purposes for house building and agricultural implements. From incisions in the bark, a fine white hard gum is obtained, similar to gum arabic, employed in cloth printing and sold extensively. Cardia augustifolia, vernacular name Narvilli, grows on the plains, a small tree. Wood very tough and of a light color. Occasionally used for making handles of agricultural implements. Crateva nurvala, vernacular name Mavalingam, grows on the plains, a small tree. Wood soft and light colored. The bark and leaves are used medicinally. Dalbergia latifolia, vernacular name Yerwadi, found in the forests on the plains and on the hills and slopes at an elevation of about 2000 feet. A magnificent tree, abundant in the forests, producing blackwood or rosewood. As a timber for furniture, it is in great request. It is likewise used for ordnance purposes. Dicrostachys cinerea, vernacular name Vedatarai, grows on the plains, a small tree, wood very hard, light colored. Beyond making walking sticks, the wood is not used in the district. Diosporos melanoxylon, vernacular name Karuntambi or ebony, grows in the forests on the plains and on the hills up to an elevation of about 3000 feet. Wood whitish with a red tinge, tough and fairly durable. Used for building and shafts of carriages. The centers of old trees generally consist of an irregularly shaped mass of jet black ebony. Trees before felling are generally tested by boring into the wood to see whether the ebony in the center is sufficiently large. The heartwood is used by cabinet makers for inlaying and ornamental turnery. Emblica officinalis, vernacular name Nelli, grows at an elevation of about 4000 feet. Wood hard and durable of a reddish color, used for building purposes, furniture, and etc. Eugenia caryophyllafolia, vernacular name Kartanaga, found on the plains and on the hills up to an elevation of 4000 feet. Wood close and even grained, not very strong or durable, except in water of a brown color. Used for well work and in native house building. Eugenia jambos, vernacular name Jambunaga, found on the plains and occasionally met with on the slopes of the hills. Wood of a reddish tinge, not very durable. Used in native house building. The fruit is eaten and is known as the rose apple in English. Ficus virens, vernacular name Alamaram or Banyan, grows on the plains and on the hills up to an elevation of 1000 feet. Wood light and porous, used for planking and etc. A fiber is made from the descending suckers. Hardwickia binata, vernacular name Acha, sapwood small, whitish, heartwood dark, reddish brown, sometimes nearly black, close and fine grained, strong, very hard and very heavy, liable to split but does not warp, takes a fine polish and is exceedingly durable, used for bridge and house posts and for ornamental work. The bark yields a strong fiber. It is found mostly in the dry forests of Denkanikota and Kottaipatti, but not everywhere. Mangifera indica, vernacular name Mamaram, grows in the plains and in mountain forests up to an elevation of 4000 feet. A large tree, wood coarse and open grained of a dull grey color, not durable. Used for making doors of native houses, boxes and planking, etc. The bark and leaves are used medicinally and a gum exudes from wounds in the bark. Lac is produced on it. The mango is the most esteemed of Indian fruits, but uneatable except when produced from a grafted tree. Melia azadiracta, vernacular name Malai Vembu, Introduced tree. Planted throughout the district. Wood handsomely marked and rather durable. Used for building purposes and for furniture making. Morinda citrifolia. Vernacular name Nonamaram. Found on the plains. Wood close grained, light and tough, of a yellowish brown color, used for native shoes. The root yields a red dye which is fixed with alum. Naclia cordifolia. Vernacular name Manjakadambai. Grows in the plains and hills to an elevation of about 4,000 feet. Wood exceedingly beautiful, resembling boxwood, close grained, smooth, light yellow in color, will not stand wet, but otherwise is good for furniture. It can be procured from 2 to 3 feet in diameter, used for house building purposes, planking, and etc. Naclia parvifolia. Vernacular name Neer Kadambai. Found on the plains and on the hills up to about 4,000 feet elevation. Wood light chestnut colored, firm and close grained. Will not stand wet. Used for building purposes, planking and etc. Pongamia glabra. Vernacular name Pungamaram. Found on the plains. Wood light, tough and fibrous, coarse and even grained, of a light yellowish brown color. Used for a variety of purposes. An oil expressed from the seeds is used for lamps and etc. Prosopis spicigera. Vernacular name Parambai. Found in the plains and hill forests. Wood dark red, straight and close grained, but easily worked, hard and durable. The tree attains a considerable size. Used for building purposes, cartwheels and etc. Pterocarpus marsupium. Vernacular name Vengai. Grows on the plains and hills up to about 4,000 feet elevation. Attains a considerable size with an erect but not very straight stem. Sapwood large, whitish. Heartwood reddish brown or nut brown, close grained, tough and strong. Seasons well, takes a fine polish and is durable. The heartwood is full of gum resin and stains yellow when damp. Makes beautiful furniture and is much used for doors and window frames, posts and beams. Highly valued for cart building. It is considered, next to teak, the most valuable tree, and the timber often fetches the same price as teak. Used for building purposes, wheels, yokes, and etc. A reddish green resin which exudes from the bark is known as kino. Sapindus emarginatus. Vernacular name Puangottai. Grows on the plains and hills. Wood close grained, of a pale yellowish color, not durable. Used for door frames, posts and etc. The seeds are used instead of soap. Santalum album. Vernacular name Sandanamaram or sandal tree. Found on the plains and hills and etc. up to an elevation of about 4,000 feet. The sapwood is white and scentless. The heartwood is of a yellowish brown and strongly scented. Used for ornamental purposes and for incense. An oil used as a perfume is distilled from the roots and chips or pieces of the heartwood. It is an important article of trade and is largely exported to China and Arabia. Spondias mangifera. Vernacular name Kattu Mamaram. Found on the plains and hills to about 3,500 feet elevation. Wood of a grayish color and soft. Used for planking, etc. Strychnos vuxnomica. Vernacular name Yetimaram. Grows on the plains and hills up to about 4,000 feet elevation. Wood of a light brown color, streaked with white, hard and durable. Used in the construction of carts, house building, plows, etc. Strychnos potatorum. Vernacular name Tettangottai. Found on the hills up to an elevation of about 4,000 feet. Wood hard and durable, of a grayish color. used for house building purposes and etc. Shoria lacifera, vernacular name Jallari, grows on the hills. A large tree very abundant in the hill forests of Denkani Kota. Its timber, strong and of a grayish color, is very useful for house building and many useful purposes. The Hindus are very fond of offering the flowers in their temples, and the women add to their charms by intertwining the blossoms in their hair. Lac is procured on the tree. Tamarindus indica, vernacular name Puliyamaram, grows on the plains and hills up to about 4,000 feet elevation. Wood very hard, close grained, of dark reddish color. Employed in the construction of oil presses, rice pestles, sugar presses, carpenter's mallets, and as planking. The heartwood is very durable and excellent for turning, but the outer wood is apt to be eaten by insects. Tectona grandis, vernacular name teak maram or teak tree, found on the hills from 1,000 to about 3,000 feet elevation. Wood very hard, strong and durable, yellowish brown in color, used for house building and variety of purposes. The leaves, which contain a red dye, are used as plates and for thatching and to wrap up parcels. Terminalia bellerica, vernacular name Tani, found on the hill slopes within 1,000 feet elevation up to about 4,000 feet. Wood light colored and rather soft, tolerably durable. Wood not much used. Terminalia berrii, vernacular name Vellamarudu, found on the plains and hills up to an elevation of 3,500 to 4,000 feet. Wood hard and durable of a brownish color, utilized for house building purposes and etc. Terminalia chebula, vernacular name Kadukai, found on the plains and hills up to about 4,000 feet elevation. Wood hard and heavy of a brown color, takes a good polish and is fairly durable. It is used for furniture, carts, agricultural implements, and house building. The bark is employed for tanning and dyeing. Hollow round galls formed on the young twigs are very astringent and are used to make writing ink in tanning and in dyeing. The galls are called kadukai. Thespesia populnea, vernacular name Poovarasamaram or tulip tree, found in the plains. Wood strong, straight, even grained and durable, of a pale reddish color, used for gun stocks, knaves, felloes, and etc. Wrightia tinctoria, vernacular name Palai, found on the plains and hills up to an elevation of about 4,000 feet. Wood white and close grained. The wood not much used. An indigo is extracted from the leaves. Wrightia antidysenterica, vernacular name Veppalamaram, found on the slopes of the hills within about 1,000 feet elevation. Wood light colored, not durable, used for furniture making. Ziziphus glabrata, vernacular name Karkattan, found on the plains. Wood lightish brown in color, tolerably hard, strong and durable, used for building purposes, beams and etc. Ziziphus jujuba, vernacular name Yalandai, grows on the plains. Wood close grained, hard and durable, of a reddish brown color, used for beams, frames and etc. Besides the above, the following forest trees deserve mention. Feronia elephantum, vernacular name wood apple, found wild in the jungles. Wood yellowish or light brown, close, even, fine grained, strong and hard, used for house building, knaves, oil crushers and agricultural implements. The sapwood is often eaten by beetles. Agle marmolos, vernacular name bale fruit or vilvamaram, Wood yellowish white with occasionally even a pinkish tinge, close and smooth grained. It is easy to work, fairly tough and durable and not heavy. Used for drums, models, writing boards, comms, boxes and internary. Terminalia coriacea, vernacular name Karamardamaram, abundant in the forests, wood whitish pale yellow or brown, heartwood distinctly darker colored, used for house building and domestic purposes. Tetranthera monopetala, vernacular name Mardamaram, a large tree yielding strong, hard and heavy timber. It is much used for making the solid wheels of buffalo or Sami carts. Diosporos hirsuta, vernacular name Kali Acha. This is one of the most valuable woods. The wood, which is sold in the market in logs, is very hard, close, and even grained, beautifully marked alternately with irregular black and brownish colored veins, sometimes mottled. It works smoothly and takes a very high polish. Acacia speciosa, vernacular name Velvengai or Kattuvalai. The timber is very durable, hard and close grained and is employed in making furniture and etc. It is of a light color and well adapted for picture frames and similar work. The tree yields a considerable quantity of gum, something like gum arabic, but more difficult to dissolve, which is valuable for many ordinary purposes. In addition to the above, may be mentioned the following timbers omitted in these lists, which were exhibited in 1874 among the forest products of the district. Ziziphus xylopyra, Telugu Gotti, Balfour. Amanova collina, not identified. Anagesis latifolia, not identified. Chrysophyllum roxburghii, not identified. Mimosops elengi, Magadam Drury. Mimosops hexandrus, Palle Drury. Michelia champaka, Shanbagapu. Philanthus emblica. Topunelli Balfour. The following timbers are reserved, that is, felled exclusively by the officers of the Forest Department. Santalum album, Sandanamaram, Tamarindus indica, Puliamaram, Mangifera indica, Mamaram, Feronia elephantum wood apple, Egle marmelos, bale fruit or Vilvamaram, Tectona grandis, teak maram, Pterocarpus marsupium vengai, Cedrella tuna, Tunmaram, Chicrasia tabularis, Agalai or Shuli or Chittagong, Diosporos melanoxylon, Karundambi or Ebony, Dalbergia latifolia, Yerwadi, Chloroxylon swietenia, Pureu or satinwood, Acacia sundra, Karungali, Hardwickia binata, Acha, Albizia odoratissima, Selvanji or Kalturinji, Acacia leucofloia, Velvelum, Conocarpus latifolia, Nammai or Vellai Nagamaram, Terminalia coriacea, Karamardamaram, Tetranthera monopetala, Mardamaram, Terminalia chebula, Kadukai, Basia longifolia, Ilupai, Nauclea cardifolia, Manjakadambai, Diospyros hirsuta, Kaliacha, Azadiracta indica, Vapum or neem, Prosopis piscigera, Parambai, Acacia speciosa, Velvengai or Kattuvalai, Shoria lacifera or Jallari, Acacia odoratissima or Kal Turunji, Eugenia jambalona or Nagai. The list of reserved timbers may be increased or reduced. Passes for unreserved timber are issued freely to ryots who want timber for house building or agricultural implements by tahsildars and in some cases by village officers. The following are the principal unreserved timbers. Acacia stipulata or Salem, Schleichera trijuga or Puluvai or Pumaram, Rotlera tinctoria or Kapilarang or Kapilapodi, Morinda citrifolia or Nonamaram, Manjaparuvattai Maram, Balfour, Cassia fistula or Kat Konnai, Alangium decapetalum or Alangi, Ulmus integrifolia, Ayamaram balfour, Bahinia racemosa or Attimaram, Ehretia aspera adali, Maba buxifolia irumbili, Ixora parvifolia karangattai, Kareya arborea kumbi palaimaram balfour, Gmelina arborea kumbadari, Naklia kadamba குடப்பை வெள்ளை கடம்ப பால்ஃபர், ஹெமிகைரோசா கேடசென்ஸ் கரடி புங்கம், பொங்காமியா கிளாப்ரா புங்கமரம், அகேஷியா அமரா துரிஞ்சி, வைடெக்ஸ் ஆல்டிசிமா மியலாதி காட்மியல்லா பால்ஃபர், பியூட்டியா ஃப்ராண்டோசா முருகன் பொரசுமரம் பால்ஃபர், டயோஸ்பாரை சில்வேட்டியோ மாலிமரம், Strychnos potatorum tettan, Strychnos naxvomica yeti, Scrabera switionioides, Mavelingum, Canthium didymum neckani, Canthium didymum niluvai, Grevea leaficata sic udupai, Cluitia collina odde ஒடுகுமரம், ஓடினா ஒடியார் ஒடியன், டால்பர்ஜியா ஃப்ராண்டோசா நல்வலங்கை, டெரோஸ்பர்மம் சுபரிஃப்ளோரம் வெண்ணாங்கு, பிக்னோனியா சைலோகார்பா வல்முருங்கை வாடென்கூர்னிமரம் பால்ஃபர், கிரெவியா திலியஃபோலியா சடச்சி, டயோஸ்பைரோஸ் கார்டிஃபோலியா உக்கனமரம், பாலியாந்தியா காரிந்தியா விரி, சேத்தியா இண்டிகா செம்பலிச்சன், ஈலியோடென்ட்ரான் ராக்ஸ்பர்கி சிரி, பிரேம்னா டொமெண்டோசா பொடுங்கனரி, கொல்கட்டை டேக் மரம் பால்ஃபர், கார்டியா மிக்ஸா ஆர் லாட்டிஃபோலியா நருளி விடிமரம் பால்ஃபர், ரைட்டியா டிங்டோரியா ஆர் பாலைமரம், ரைட்டியா ஆன்டிடிசென்ட்ரிகா வெப்பாலை, கிவோட்டியா ராட்லரிஃபார்மிஸ் வெல்தன்னக்கும் பூட்டலி மரம் பால்ஃபர், டைக்ரோஸ்டாச்சிஸ் ஆய்னரியா வடத்தாரை, ஜிசைஃபஸ் ஜுஜுபா எலந்தை, மெமிக்சைலான் டிங்டோரம் கச்சான், எரித்ரினா இண்டிகா கல்யாண முருகம், ஸ்டீரியோஸ்பெர்மம் செலனாய்ட்ஸ் பத்ரி, டர்மினாலியா பெல்லரிகா தனி, பொம்பாக்ஸ் மலபாரிக்கம் காட்டெலவம், புக்கனானியா லாட்டிஃபோலியா சரப்புப்பு மொரெடா பால்ஃபோர் அண்ட் டியூரி, ஸ்பாத்தோடியா ஃபால்கட்டா கலிர்விடி. Timber for seasoning should be immediately removed and stacked in a shed. The process should be carried out slowly and a free current of air between the logs ensured. The bark should not be removed until the timber is required for use, as otherwise it is liable to crack. In the case of acha wood, however, the bark should be invariably removed, as the timber is liable to be perforated by black beetles, probably the carpenter beetle, if the bark is left on. Seignerage is levied on timber felled at rates varying from ₹1 to ₹5 per bundy load, according to the description of the timber and its being in the rough, squared or worked up. Bamboos pay 12 annas a bundy load, or if split, ₹1 and 4 annas. For headloads of timber and for firewood, rates proportionately smaller are charged. The gathering of the following barks in the state forests or jungles is only permitted on payment of the fees set forth below. Name of the bark, rates leviable on bundy load and head load. Velam, per bundy load ₹2 and 8 annas. Per head load, no charges. Avaram, per bundy load 12 annas. Head load 6 pice. Pesugu, per bundy load ₹4. Head load, no charges. Sombu, bundy load ₹4. Head load, no charges. Velam pattai, vernacular name Acacia leucofloia. This bark is ground and mixed with flour during times of scarcity. It is largely used in the preparation of spirits from sugar and palm juice, being added on account of the tannin it contains to precipitate the albuminous substance of the juice. The right of collecting the bark is obtained on license. By steeping the bark in water for 4 or 5 days and beating it, a tough fiber is made, used for making nets and coarse cordage. Avaram pattai, Cassia auriculata, is generally found as a small shrub in the jungles. The bark, which is astringent, is used for tanning and dyeing leather. Pesugu pattai, botanical name unknown. Nothing is known of this bark or its use, but it is said to be of good quality. Sombu pattai, Soimida febrifuga. This bark is internally of a light red color. A decoction made from it dyes brown of various shades according as the cloth is prepared. It is said to be a good tonic in intermittent fevers. Maddi sukkai, Morinda citrifolia. The bark of the root is used for dyeing red and yellow. No seigniorage is levied on its collection. The following are the other exhibits prepared for the Paris exhibition. Palms and bamboos. Borassus flabelliformis or panai, Bambusa arundinacea or mungil, Dendrocalamus triotus siruvarai. Fibers. Hardwickia binata or acha, barks of this tree yields a strong, valuable fiber which requires no preparation and is in some places much needed for cordage. Bahinia racemosa or chittati. According to Balfour, the fiber is made from the inner bark soaked in water and twisted when wet. The ropes, though strong, are said not to be durable and to rot in water. Spathodia falcata, Kadalatti. Fiber produced from the bark of the branches and roots is used for cordage and nets. Botanical name unknown, Kottukovai. Fiber produced from the bark of the branches and roots is used for cordage and nets. Vellai sellai, whose botanical name is unknown. The fiber is produced from the bark and is used for cordage, etc. Aloe vulgaris sambakathalai. Fiber produced from the leaves is much employed for mat making, cordage, etc. Calotropis gigantea yerukam. Fiber produced from the bark bears a severe test, bearing superior even to jute. While in fineness it is almost better suited to weaving than for mere rope making. Botanical name unknown, Puvella. Musa paradisiaca, Vali. The common plantain yields a strong and beautiful fiber somewhat difficult to manipulate. Musa paradisiaca, Karuvali, a species of the same. Musa paradisiaca, Mandamvali, a species of the same. Sida, species name unknown, Masatuthi. Fiber produced from the bark is used for cordage. Abel Moschus esculentus, Cart vendai. Fiber produced from the outer coating of the plant is used for making ropes, etc. Cocos nucifera, Katambai. Fiber produced from the barks of the nuts is much used for cordage, stuffing pillows, and etc. Large ships' cables are made from it and are noted for resiliency. It is curious to note that the word coir, applied principally to this but also to other fibers, is usually the Tamil kairu or a rope. The word is as much anglicized as catamaran, which is a corruption of kattumaram or the logs tied together. Sansevieria zeylanica, Malaimanji. Fiber is produced from the leaf and is used for manufacturing ropes and etc. Sida acuta, Aruamuku. The inner bark consists of numerous distinct layers of finely reticulate fiber, which is made into ropes, whips, paper, lacs, and all kinds of wearing apparel. Corcorus variety Vallukai, a kind of jute. The fiber of a variety said to be the Corcorus acutangulus was included in a collection shown at the Madras Agricultural Show in February 1874. புள்ளிப்பூண்டு, botanical name unknown. Fiber is produced from the outer coating of the stem and branches and used for rope making. Sesbania zeylanica, காட்டு அசம்பை, சம்பை. Fiber is produced from the outer coating of the stem and branches and used for rope making. Sansevieria variety, Karumunji. Fiber produced from the leaf is used for manufacturing ropes and etc. Pavonia zeylanica, Chittamutti. Fiber is produced from the outer coating of the stem and branches of the plant and used for ropes and etc. Pavonia zeylanica, Mosapunde. Fiber is produced from the outer coating of the stem and branches of the plant and used for ropes and etc. Ottadai, botanical name unknown. Fiber is produced from the outer coating of the stem and branches of the plant and used for ropes and etc. Hibiscus cannabinus, Lichai, a kind of hemp. Crotalaria jansea, Janapai, the sun hemp plant. The fiber is produced from the outer coating of the stem and used for manufacturing gunnies. The class of weavers named Janapas derive their name from the Janapanar or fiber which they chiefly employ. Agave americana, Pachakatalai, the American aloe. Fiber produced from the leaves is used for cordage, matting, and a variety of purposes. Ficus indica, Alamaram or banyan. A coarse fiber is produced from the bark. Guazuma tomentosum, Rudraksham, the bastard cedar. The young shoots yield fiber. Abutilon indicum, Tuthi, a kind of mallow. The stem yields a fiber. Nallapolan, botanical name unknown, a kind of mallow. The stem yields a fiber. Besides the above mentioned fibers, the sub-assistant conservator mentions the following as being found in the district. Caryota urens, Kondapanainar or bastard sago. The fiber prepared from this palm is used for fishing lines and bowstrings. It is strong and durable and resists for a long time the action of water, but is liable to snap if suddenly bent or knotted. Nallaputanar, the fibers of which are coarse but strong. Cardia angustifolia, Naruvallinar, the bark of which yields a fiber used for dragging timber from the forests. Peipulan nar, botanical name unknown, the bark of which yields an abundance of strong white fibers. Sesbania aegyptiaca, Karam sembinar, commonly cultivated and naturalized in many parts of the district. It is grown with other plants to shade and support the beetle vine. Rope is made of the bark. Hibiscus subdarifa, Savappakushurum kerainar. The roselle yields a fine and silky fiber. It should not be gathered more than 2 days before being prepared, and exposure to the sun imparts a brownish tint to the fibers. The specimens exhibited from this district in 1874 were not comparable to those sent from Kadapa, which were 6 to 7 feet long. Gums, resins and oils, etc. Azadiracta indica or vapum, Agle marmelos or vilvum, Pterocarpus marsupium or vengai, Semiocarpus anacardium, Sarangottai, Butea frondosa or Cartmurcum, Eriodendron anfractosum or Cart 11, Ailanthus excelsus, Pimaraguntu, Prosopis bisigera or Parambai, Chloroxylon swietania or Porasu, Emblica officinalis or Nelli, Conocarpus latifolia or Nammai, Hardwickia bainata or Acha, Scylla, whose botanical name is not known, Mangifera indica, Mamaram, Canarium strictum, Kunglium, Acacia amara, Thuringi, Acacia leucofloea, Velvelum, Acacia arabica, Caruvelum, Feronia elephantum vellam, Albizia odoratissima, Selvangi, Sesamum indicum, Nallennai, Pongamia glabra, Pungennai, Azadiracta indica, Vepennai, Basia longifolia, Yelupennai, Cocos nucifera, Tengai ennai. In addition may be mentioned Mallotus philippinensis or Rotlaria tinctoria, Kuplipodi, common in the Dankanikota, Javadi, and Kalrayan tracts. The red mealy powder of the capsules is a valuable product and might be a source of considerable revenue in many of the forests. It is used as an orange dye, principally for silk. The ripe capsules are gathered in March and rubbed together or shaken in bags till the farina separates. Seeds and leaves, etc. Cassia tore, Tagaravirai, Bixa aurellana, Kuragu manjal virai. A valuable dye known as arnotto is produced from the pulp surrounding the seeds of this plant. It is prepared by macerating the pods in boiling water, extracting the seeds, and leaving the pulp to subside, the fluid being subsequently thrown off. The residuum, with which oil is sometimes mixed, is placed in shallow vessels and dried in the shade. When properly made, it should be of a bright yellow color. Sapindus emarginatus or puchangottai. The shells of the nuts are used by the natives as a substitute for soap. Strychnos patatarum, tetangottai. The nuts are used in clearing muddy water, the method pursued being to rub the inside of the utensil with the nut previous to pouring in the water, which rapidly deposits the suspended silt. Electaria cardamomum, Yelakai, cardamoms, used as a spice or flavoring ingredient. Cassia auriculata, Avaram pattai, used for tanning. Sombu pattai, whose botanical name is not known, by boiling yields a yellow color. Pesugu pattai, whose botanical name is not known, a rose-colored dye is extracted from the bark by boiling with gallnuts and etc. Acacia leucofloea, velvelam pattai, used in the manufacture of arak. Morinda citrifolia or nona pattai, a yellow dye is produced by boiling with alum mordant. Rotlera tinctoria, kapilipodi. Ventilago madaraspatana, puplichakai. The bark of a creeper which abounds throughout the jungles. It yields a fine purple dye and finds a ready sale in the local market and for export to Bombay, etc. Vritia tinctoria, Palaineelam. Indigo is produced from the leaves. Canarium strictum, Karuppu Maddipal, burnt as incense in native temples. Vateria indica, Vellai Maddipal, burnt as incense in native temples. Terminalia chebula, Kadukai, used with other stuffs to produce by maceration and boiling a yellow or black dye, also extensively used for tanning purposes. Acacia consina, Shiakai, used by natives as a substitute for soap. Semicarpus anacardium, Sharangottai, used medicinally and for coloring cotton cloths. The color is improved and fixed by the mixture of a little quicklime and water. Bassia longifolia, Ilupai, yields an oil used for burning in lamps. Azadiracta indica or vapum, used medicinally and yields a bitter oil. Pongamia glabra, Pungangottai, an oil is extracted from the seeds used for burning in lamps, also medicinally. Sesamum indicum or yellow, an oil extracted from the seeds is used in native cookery and is a good substitute for olive oil. Vritia tinctoria, Palayillai, an inferior kind of indigo is produced by boiling the leaves. Cocos nucifera or Tengai, the ordinary coconut, yields an oil and fiber besides having an edible pulp. No list of forest products would be complete which contained no reference to lac, which is found principally in the Denkanikota forests. It is chiefly worked up into ornaments and varnishes. The red coloring matter, which is now exported in small quantities only, being used as a dye. The natives employ raw lac in making the bangles worn by the lower classes, while the best shell lac is turned into similar ornaments of greater value, as also into beads and rings. Shell lac is also extensively consumed in the manufacture of sealing wax, liquid varnish, and the composition of certain inks. In connection with forests, the operations of the Jungle Conservancy Fund may be mentioned. The following statement shows the assets and expenditure of the fund for a series of 10 years. Year, receipts and expenditure. For the year 1870-71, the receipts were 38,281 rupees, 11 annas and 1 pice. The expenditure was 14,781 rupees, 8 annas and 11 pice. In the year 1871 to 72, the receipts were 29,807 rupees, 10 annas and 10 pice. The expenditure was 34,187 rupees, 5 annas and 9 pice. In the year 1872 to 73, the receipts were 38,219 rupees, 9 annas and 8 pice. The expenditure was 56,000 rupees, 56,688 rupees, 12 annas and 5 pice. In the year 1873 to 74, a comment by Mohan. The receipts were 38,219 in 72-73, but the expenditure was 56,688. That's where I got stuck. Probably I was thinking it was lesser or what. But in some other years also, the expenditures were more than the receipts. So I think it's right. In the year 1873 to 74, the receipts were 28,303 rupees, 15 annas, and the expenditure was 30,000 rupees, 30,690 rupees, 14 annas and 6 pice. This year also, the expenditure was more than the receipts. In the year 1874 to 75, the receipts were 23,187 rupees, 4 pice, and the expenditure was 34,747 rupees, 10 annas and 2 pice. In the year 1875 to 76, the receipts were 23,823 rupees, 12 annas and 4 pice, and the expenditure was 28,076 rupees, 4 annas and 2 pice. In the year 1876 to 77, the receipts were 16,753 rupees, 2 annas and 1 pice, and the expenditure was 35,772 rupees, 12 annas and 7 pice. In the year 1877 to 78, the receipts were 9,108 rupees, 11 annas and 8 pice. Oh, this was that famine year. Okay. And the expenditure was 20,971 rupees, 3 annas, 2 pice. In the year 1878 to 79, the receipts were 35,488 rupees, 6 annas and 2 pice. And the expenditure was 13,084 rupees, 9 annas and 6 pice. In the year 1879 to 80, the receipts were 47,441 rupees, 6 annas and 1 pice, and the expenditure was 13,843 rupees, 14 annas and 10 pice. Because of very high expenditures from 1872, actually from 1871 itself to nearly 1876, with the highest expenditure in 1872 to 73 of 56,688 rupees, the government seems to have throttled down on expenditure, so that in 1878 and 79, although the income was 35,488 rupees, the expenditure was only 13,000. And in 79-80 also, even though the income has receded, the receipts were almost 47,000 rupees, but the expenditure was still the same 13,000 rupees. End of comment. 232 topes aggregating 2,431 acres in various stages of growth were maintained in the year 1879. The total number of trees as returned was 1,79,633. The toddy contractor enjoys all Palmyra trees on government wasteland. As regards trees on patta lands, he has to make his own arrangements with the owners. The leaves used for thatching are not generally sold, as all Olevetti trees are, as a rule, held on patta. The rate for cuttings per tree is 3 pice. If, however, there is any special occasion for disposing of the leaves separately, they are sold by auction. The price at which Palmyra trees, as a rule, past bearing, are sold for building and other purposes varies as follows. In Salem, 1 rupee. Attur, 1 rupee. Namakkal, 1 rupee. Trichangod, 1 rupee, 4 annas. Tirupattur, 1 rupee, 4 annas. Uttangarai, 1 rupee, 4 annas. Hosur, 1 rupee, 12 annas. Dharmapuri, 1 rupee, 12 annas. Krishnagiri, 1 rupee, 12 annas. Scattered tamarind and other trees are generally given on patta. The rate is 3 annas per tree. Where the trees are situated in woody or jungle tracts, they are rented out from time to time. When application for lands containing trees already held on patta are received, the rule is to give the tree pattadar the option to take the land on patta, but if he refuses to take it, to give the patta to the applicant, putting him in possession of the trees also. Where there are already 2 pattas, one for land and the other for trees, the tree assessment is credited towards the demand on the land. There is, however, reason to believe that this rule is not universally enforced and that government occasionally got the double rent. Palmyras, however, form an exception. Lands containing Palmyra trees stand in one man's name while the trees are in that of another. The revenue is credited to Jungle Conservancy. In some cases, the same person holds 2 different pattas, one for the land and the other for the trees. There are again cases in which a patta for the land only is held, but the usufruct of the Palmyra trees growing thereon is enjoyed by the pattadar without payment of a separate tax. This is in consequence of an order in 1873 to 74 that the separate Palmyra tree pattas should cease in all cases in which the same individual held patta for both land and trees in that fasli. This order was not, however, fully carried out. When applications are received for lands containing timber trees and which either border on or are situate in woody or jungle tracts, it is usual to consult the forest department before making the adamanam. Then the value of the trees is collected and the adamanam made absolute. The rules also permit the adamanam being made without conferring the right to cut the trees, but this has not been generally acted up to. Also, if the lands applied for contain valuable trees but are not situated in jungles, the trees are sold to the applicant and the adamanam made after the price has been paid. There is obvious reason for collecting the value of the trees from the Dharakasdar. As a tree worth rupees 30 may stand on land assessed at 8 annas, the adamanam would give the ownership of the tree and there would be nothing to hinder the pattadar from cutting down the tree and filing razinama for the land, pocketing the difference between 1 year's assessment and the value of the timber. Jails. The district has 1 central and 16 subsidiary jails. The following is a statement showing the average strength, admissions and discharges during the years 1870 and 1875. Also, the mortality and sickness together with the gross expenditure and earnings during the year 1875 of prisoners at the Central Jail, Salem. In the year 1870, average prisoners during the year: male 449.65, female 15.46, in total 465.11. Total admissions 696 males, 35 females, in total 731. Total discharges 583 males, 26 females, in total 609. For the year 1875, average prisoners during the year: male 500.42, females 27.12, in total 527.54. Total admissions, male 889, female 75, in total 964. Total discharges, male 843, female 74, in total 917. For the other categories, data are not available from 1870 but only from 1876. Total admission of sickness, male 215, female 9, in total 224. Total deaths, male 13, no female deaths, in total 13. Percentage of death to admission of sickness, male 6.04, female nil, in total 5.80. Percentage of death to average number in jail during the year, males 2.59, in total 2.546. Gross expenditure of the jails in 1875, rupees 58,574 rupees, 7 annas, 4 pice. Total cost per prisoner for rations, clothing, establishment, repairs, etc., etc., rupees 111 and 6 pice. Total value of jail manufacture, rupees 26,122 rupees, 2 annas and 2 pice. Average amount earned by each prisoner, 49 rupees, 8 annas and 2 pice. If these figures are correct, it is difficult to reconcile them with the following, which was epitomized by Mr. McIver for the Imperial Gazetteer. The central jail in 1875 contained 521 prisoners, costing government revenues rupees 34,934 or rupees 69,7 annas and 3 pice per prisoner. 917 prisoners were discharged during the year, and out of 371 sick, there were 14 deaths. The profit on jail manufactures was rupees 8,169. The subsidiary jails in normal years are often empty and seldom hold more than 2 or 3 prisoners. During the famine, however, the jail population largely increased, the admissions during 1877 being as follows. The class of jail, central jail, number 6,688, mortality 300. The class of jail, subsidiary jails, number 18,943, mortality 111. The jails and their compounds were then often full to overflowing. It was little needed to guard the prisoners, who fared better in jail than outside. Special buildings, often of the flimsiest character, had to be erected to house the enhanced numbers, but there was little or no mortality which could be traced to overcrowding. The old district jail at Salem had an unenviable notoriety for unhealthiness, but the new central jail has earned the opposite character, and when cholera was raging all over the district, the inmates enjoyed a remarkable immunity from the disease. The Jail Commission of 1867 resulted in a great improvement in the subsidiary jails, which were mostly rebuilt according to standard plans or improved where the existing conditions admitted of it. There is still something to be done when funds are available, especially at Dharmapuri, where the sub-jail is hardly fit for the animal creation. The carpets manufactured at the central jail are very superior. The following, communicated Mr. Johnston, the jail superintendent, is a list of dyestuffs and materials used in the Salem Central Jail for dyeing wool. Number 1, indigo, Indigofera tinctoria, colors obtained, blue and its shades, green, purple and black. How it is used, maceration in solutions. Number 2, turmeric, curcuma longa, colors obtained, yellow and orange. Uses, boiling with alum and soap sand. Logwood, Vattangi, vernacular, red crimson and scarlet colors are obtained. Usage boiling with alum and soap sand. Porous flower Murukam Puvu vernacular. Colors obtained yellow, green, orange. Usage soaking in water after indigo solutions turns into green. Lac, Caucus lacca, Araku vernacular. Red, crimson, scarlet colors are obtained. Usage dye extracted and boiling with alum and lime juice. Scam bark, Somampatti vernacular. Colors obtained brown and its shades. Usage boiling with alum. Copperas, Annabatti vernacular. Colors obtained black. Usage soaking in hot water after indigo solution. Kutch, Kassikatti vernacular. Colors obtained use in blue colors. Usage mixed in the indigo. Gallnuts, Kadukkai vernacular. Used in blue colors and black colors. By steeping usage. Tagara seeds, Cassia toroflorida, Tungadi bija or Tagara vere, vernacular or canaries. Used in blue colors. Usage boiled and mixed in the indigo. Limes, Elumichum vernacular. Used in red colors. With logwood and lac to produce light and dark colors respectively. Tamarind or puli vernacular, used in red colors with logwood and lac to produce light and dark colors respectively. Carpentry, basketwork, weaving, shoemaking, and other trades are taught and practiced in the central jail, where also the convicts are or were taught to read. The jail manufactures, however, are chiefly utilized to meet the demands of the police for uniform, sandals, and etc. Local funds. There are two local fund boards in the district, one circle being co-terminus with the subdivision taluks of Hosur, Krishnagiri, and Dharmapuri, and the other including the remainder of the district. The boards are composed as follows. The president, who is always the collector, belongs to both boards, which have each a vice president, who in the subdivision is the sub-collector. The Hosur board has 12 official and 14 non-official members. The Salem board has 13 official and 15 non-official members. The average revenue of the boards for the 5 years 1874 to 75 to 1878-79 were Salem Circle rupees 1,68,225 and Hosur Circle rupees 61,075. The following are the items from which the assets are made up. Road Fund. The assets of this branch of local funds consist of 2/3 of the collections of the cess at 1 anna in the rupee of land revenue assessment, rent value of the land, and etc., according to the tenures on which the land is held. Of the proceeds of tolls, of provincial service grants sanctioned by government, of the balance of the road fund constituted under Madras Act 3 of 1866. This item has disappeared from the accounts. Of contributions from the funds of other circles and municipalities for the construction and maintenance of communications, and of such other appropriation in excess of 2/3 of the collections from the land cess as may be assigned by the local fund boards with the sanction of government. Union Fund. This fund is at present in abeyance. Endowment Fund. This comprises income from funded or other property of dispensaries, choultries, and etc., and market rents. General Fund. This is made up of all money belonging to the local fund board, not applicable solely to the purposes of road, union, and endowment funds. It consists of 1/3 of the land cess, of bungalow fees, contributions, grants, school fees, subscriptions, interest, proceeds of sale of property, and avenue rents. Land cess. The cess on land is levied at the maximum rate of 1 anna in the rupee and forms the chief source of income to local funds. It produces about 1,50,000 rupees in the Salem and about rupees 60,000 in the Hosur circle. Tolls. Tolls are levied at 5 places in Salem and at 6 places in Hosur and yield an annual revenue of about rupees 24,000. Provincial grant. On the first establishment of local fund modes, a large sum of money was granted by government on account of roads and schools, but in consequence of the distressed state of the finances, this grant has been withheld since 1877. Special funds. These consist of the surplus pound fund, ferry, fishery, and grass rents, and rent on avenue. These yield about rupees 13,000 for the Salem and rupees 10,000 for the Hosur circle. The expenditure is roughly as follows. Grant 1, new works. None of any importance are now under construction. Repairs. There are 113 roads in the Salem circle and 38 in Hosur. Sufficient grants to keep these roads in good working order are made each year as far as the funds at the disposal of the circle boards admit, and all dispensaries, travelers' bungalows, schoolhouses, choultries, and etc., which require repair are put in order. A sum of about rupees 96,877 in Salem and rupees 31,112 in Hosur was thus spent in 1874-75, the year before the famine. A sum of rupees 3,500 in the Salem circle and rupees 2,000 in the Hosur is set aside towards the maintenance of avenues on the existing roads. Grant 2, payment for inspection. A sum of rupees 2,230 in the Salem circle and rupees 1,100 in Hosur is budgeted for annually for 4 inspecting schoolmasters in the former and 2 in the latter. In 1879-80, a third inspecting schoolmaster on rupees 35 per mensem was entertained for the Hosur circle, but in the following year, one on rupees 25 was dispensed with on account of the establishment of a separate normal school for Hosur. Training schools. A normal school on a small scale, costing rupees 1,270 per annum, has been established at Salem, and the establishment of another at Krishnagiri in the Hosur circle has been sanctioned at an annual cost of rupees 1,878. Local fund schools. There are in the Salem circle 10 lower class schools under the salary system and 50 under the combined system, of which 3 are girls' schools. The annual cost of these schools is about rupees 13,000. In the Hosur circle, there are no schools on the salary system maintained from local funds, but the schools on the combined system number 25 and cost about rupees 5,000 per annum. Result grant schools. According to the latest lists of schools sanctioned by the local fund boards for examination for result grants, there are 94 such schools in the Salem and 64 in the Hosur circle, and rupees 2,000 and 1,000 respectively are budgeted for these schools. The grants are awarded on the annual examination of the deputy inspectors. Those schools only are eligible for grants, the masters of which have been vaccinated, and pupils who have not been vaccinated are excluded from the examination. Elementary books to the value of rupees 540 in Salem and rupees 300 in Hosur are purchased and supplied to taluk depots for sale to local fund and result grant schools. Oh, they had published. Comment by Mohan. This Madras government seems to have published books, elementary school books. We should check whether those books are available and what was taught in them. End of comment. Inspecting schoolmasters are employed as agents for the sale of these books, being allowed a commission of 15% on the sale proceeds to cover the cost of conveyance to schools and etc. Grant 3, hospitals and dispensaries. The local fund dispensaries, of which there are 6 in Salem and 3 in Hosur, cost rupees 9,780 and 5,000 respectively per annum. The government pay 25% of the salaries of the medical officers in charge for the treatment of government servants in these dispensaries. Vaccination. The details of the establishment maintained for vaccination are given below. Suffice it here to say that a first-class deputy inspector, assisted by 20 vaccinators, is in charge of the Salem Circle, and a second-class deputy inspector, assisted by 9 vaccinators and 3 probationers, is in charge of the Hosur Circle. The annual cost of these establishments amounts to rupees 4,480 for the Salem and rupees 2,570 for Hosur Circle. Bungalows. There are 12 public bungalows in the Salem and 10 in the Hosur Circle. The annual cost of the establishment maintained in rupees 700 for the former and rupees 314 for the latter. Choultries. There are 6 choultries in the Salem Circle and 1 in Hosur, which provide accommodation for all classes of the native community. The construction of a similar chatram at Mattakeri in the Hosur Circle has been sanctioned and will be undertaken in 1880. Besides these, there are 10 choultries in Salem and 7 in Hosur, built by the late collector Mr. R, and a small establishment is maintained for keeping them in good order. These choultries cost rupees 600 for the Salem and rupees 96 for the Hosur Circle. The other expenditure under Grant 3 is as follows. Head of Account, Salem and Hosur. For improvement of water supply, the expenses in Salem is 1000 rupees, Hosur 500. Improvement of village sites, Salem 500, Hosur 1000. Scavengering establishments, Salem 6500, Hosur 6240. Contribution to provincial funds on account of the medical college, Salem 1530, Hosur 590. Oh, medical college. Comment by Mohan. The medical college in Salem was established before 1880s. That's interesting. End of comment. Contribution to salary of inspectors of vaccination. Salem 1530, Hosur 590. Contribution to Salem municipality for civil dispensary. Salem 2000, Hosur nil. Miscellaneous including cholera charges, inspection charges of Zilla surgeon, lunatic charges, etc. In Salem 840, Hosur 580. Grant 4 Miscellaneous. This grant comprises the contributions for controlling establishment at the presidency and in the collector's office, the establishment of the local fund board's office, contingencies, traveling allowance to non-official members, printing and other charges. This amounts to rupees 3,250 in the Salem and rupees 1,700 in the Hosur Circle. The chief objects for which the funds are administered are the maintenances of communications, sanitation and education. The mileage budgeted for is as follows. Hosur Circle 434 miles, Salem Circle 1094 miles. So in total 1528 miles. There are, however, only 1342 and 3/4 miles of regular roads in the district, according to the Talukwar totals, or 1 3/4 miles for every 10 square miles, or 7,604 per 10 of area. Besides these, there are 348.5 miles of famine roads and roads of the second class, which, though useful, cannot be said to be fit throughout for carriage traffic. The total allotment for the budgeted mileage in 1878-79 was rupees 1,03,325 or rupees 67 and 10 annas per mile. Considering the smallness of the allotment, it is wonderful in what condition the roads are kept. In fact, the roads are the pride of every district official, most of them being shaded by splendid lines of avenues planted mostly by forced labor in the time of Mr. R from 1829 to 1838. In those days, it was a far cry to Madras, and as a rule, what master pleased was done. Oh, goodness. So they used Corvi labor. Okay. Begar. End of comment. Old rites still tell the tale of the zulum made by the irascible collector, whose horsewhip occasionally made Ramasamy wince. But generations of grateful travelers and the sufferers themselves in the end testified to the profit and comfort derived from these travaux forces. The roads were for years a bone of contention between the revenue officers and public works department, the former affirming that they did the work cheaper and better than the professional department, which pocketed 25% of the repair allotments for supervision. After oscillating between the two departments, the roads have finally been moved over to the local fund boards, which maintain their own engineering establishments as follows. In Salem Circle, engineer pay rupees 500 plus 100 traveling allowance, so in total 600 rupees. In Hosur Circle, one engineer pay rupees 200 plus 50 traveling allowance, so in total rupees 250. In Salem Circle, one estimator pay rupees 35. In Hosur Circle, one clerk pay rupees 15 plus 8 traveling allowance. So in total 23 rupees. In Salem Circle, 3 Laskars pay rupees 7 each. So total is 21 rupees. In Hosur Circle, 2 Laskars pay rupees 6 each. So in total 12 rupees. In Salem Circle, 3 overseers pay rupees 60 plus 15 traveling allowance each. So in total 225 rupees. In Hosur Circle, 3 overseers pay rupees 60 plus 15 traveling allowance each. So in total 225 rupees. In Salem Circle, 3 overseers pay rupees 45 plus 15 traveling allowance each. So in total rupees 180. In Hosur Circle, 3 sub or assistant overseers 25 plus 15 traveling allowance each. So in total 80 rupees. In Salem Circle, 6 assistant overseers pay rupees 25 each. So in total 150 rupees. In Hosur Circle, 3 Laskars for overseers pay rupees 6 each. So in total 18 rupees. In Salem, 6 Laskars pay rupees 7 each. So in total 42 rupees. So total per mensum in Salem 1253 rupees. Per annum 15,036 rupees. For contingencies in Salem Circle, 394 rupees is allowed. So total cost of Salem Circle 15,430 rupees. Whereas in Hosur Circle per mensum, the total comes to 680 rupees, 608 rupees. So total cost per annum is 7,296 rupees. In the latter arrangement, the Hosur Circle is somewhat overweighted, for while 25% of the Salem Circle allotments leave a considerable margin after providing for the engineering staff, 25% of the Hosur Circle allotments barely cover the cost of the modest establishment maintained. It is not easy to remedy this, for even if the Tirupattur and Uttangarai taluks were added to the Hosur Circle, the latter would not profit, as the expenditure in those taluks always exceeds the revenue which they supply, and were it not for the wealth of the Talaghat taluks, the Salem board would find some difficulty in providing for them. In speaking of communications, the railway must not be omitted, regarding which see below railway page 203. Regarding sanitation, the hospitals of course rank first. See below medical page 199. There are sanitary establishments maintained by quasi-voluntary contributions supplemented from local funds in 22 villages of the Salem and 12 villages of the Hosur circle. The following is the vaccination staff maintained. Salem circle and Hosur circle. One deputy inspector in Salem circle at rupees 70 and one second class deputy inspector in Hosur circle at rupees 40. 6 first class vaccinators, 3 on rupees 18 and 3 on rupees 15 in Salem circle at rupees 99 and 3 first class vaccinators on rupees 15 each in Hosur circle. So expenses rupees 45. 14 second class vaccinators on rupees 10 each, so amounting to 140 rupees. 6 second class vaccinators on rupees 10 each in Hosur circle, amounting to 60 rupees. 1 peon in Salem circle gets a pay of 7 rupees. 3 probationers on rupees 5 each in Hosur circle, a pay of total 15 rupees. Fixed bata to deputy inspector in Salem circle at 15 rupees. And in Hosur circle, 1 peon gets the pay of 7 rupees. Fixed beta to deputy inspector in Hosur circle is rupees 15. So in Salem circle, the total per mensum is 331 rupees. Per annum is 3,972. Total per mensum in Hosur circle is 182 and per annum 284. And other charges in Salem circle, bata to peon is 22 rupees. Extra pay to vaccinators in Hosur circle is 160 rupees. Extra pay to vaccinators in Salem circle is 300 rupees. Contingent charges in Salem are 36 rupees, while contingent charges in Hosur circle are also 36 rupees. Stationery and postal charges in Salem circle are 100 rupees, while postal and stationery charges in Hosur circle are 80 rupees. Bata to mothers in Salem circle amounts to 50 rupees and it's the same in Hosur circle also. So in total, the expenditure of Salem circle is rupees 4,480 and that of Hosur circle is 2,570. The work done in the years 1876 to 77 to 1878-79 was as follows. Year 1876-77, in the Salem circle, the number of people vaccinated was 10,548. Number successfully vaccinated, 9,727. And in Hosur circle, number vaccinated was 9,330. Number successful, 7,772. Comment by Mohan. I don't know what is this number successful and number vaccinated. After the total number of vaccinated, roughly 80 to 90% seem to be successful. I don't know what they mean. That means the people who did not get the disease, probably. So in 1877-78, the number vaccinated in Salem circle were 34,863, of which the successfully prevented were 33,603. In Hosur circle, the vaccinated were 16,915, of which the successful were 14,328. In 1878-79, the number vaccinated were 9,072 and the number successful was 8,630. In the Hosur circle, the number vaccinated was 7,393 and the successful number is 6,244. Great strides have been made in this branch of prophylactic medicine. No village officer is now appointed who has not been vaccinated or had smallpox. Prisoners in jails are vaccinated and no child in aided schools can earn anything for the school unless both he and the teachers are protected in this way. The share which the local fund board takes in promoting education has been noticed above under section Education on page 173. Magisterial, Civil and Revenue Courts. Jurisdiction in civil cases is exercised by the district judge, the subordinate judge, and five district munsifs. In petty cases, the village heads have jurisdiction. Jurisdiction in criminal cases belongs to the sessions judge, the district magistrate, the three divisional magistrates, and the treasury deputy collector and magistrate, who all have first class powers. The assistant magistrate, when there is one, who may or may not have first class powers. The taluk and subdivisional sub-magistrates of the second class, of whom there are 19, to 9 third-class magistrates and 1 bench of magistrates. There are thus 35 criminal courts. The maximum distance of any village from the nearest court is 45 and the average distance 19 miles. The village magistrates, of whom there are 2073, have jurisdiction in petty cases. Revenue suits can be heard and determined by the collector, the three divisional officers, and by the treasury deputy collector and the assistant collector when cases are referred to them, and by the district judge in appeals. The distribution of the civil courts can be ascertained from the following, which is a statement showing the number of officers of each class in the judicial establishment in the district of Salem, the extent of their jurisdiction, and the territorial limits of their original and appellate authority during the year 1875. So the table comprises of number of officers of each class, extent of their pecuniary jurisdiction, that is original, appeal, and small cause, territorial limits of their original authority, and territorial limits of their appellate authority. So, district judge, extent of his pecuniary jurisdiction, original jurisdiction over all original suits and proceedings of a civil nature in the absence of the sub-judge. Appeal jurisdiction, all appeals from the decrees and orders of sub-judge and district munsifs where such appeals are allowed and where the value of the subject matter is rupees 5,000 or below. Small cause, nil. Territorial limits of their original authority over the whole district. Territorial limits of their appellate authority over the whole district. Subordinate judge. Jurisdiction, original jurisdiction over all original suits and proceedings of a civil nature. Appeal jurisdiction over such appeals from decrees and orders of district munsifs as may be referred by the judge, district judge for disposal. Small cause above rupees 50 to rupees 500 under section 28 Act 3 of 1873 and GO dated 18th March 1873. Territorial limits of their original authority over the whole district in small causes over the Salem Revenue Taluk. Appellate authority limits none except in cases specially referred. District Munsif of Salem, original jurisdiction over all like suits and proceedings not otherwise exempted from his cognizance, the amount or value of the subject matter of which does not exceed rupees 2,500. Appellate jurisdiction, none. Small cause up to rupees 50 under section 28 Act 3 of 1873 and GO dated 18th March 1873. Territorial limits Salem, Atur, Omalur and Sankagiri Durg. Appellate authority, none. District Munsif of Namakkal, original jurisdiction, overall like suits and proceedings not otherwise exempted from his cognizance, the amount or value of the subject matter of which does not exceed rupees 2,500. Appeal jurisdiction, none. Small cause up to rupees 50 under section 28 Act 3 of 1873 and government order dated 18th March 1873. Territorial jurisdiction Namakkal, Paramati, Ghazipur and Trichangod, old taluks. Appellate limits, none. District Munsif of Tirupattur, overall like suits and proceedings not otherwise exempted from his cognizance, the amount or value of the subject matter of which does not exceed rupees 2,500. Appellate jurisdiction none. Small cause up to rupees 50 under Section 28, Act 3 of 1873 and Government Order dated 18th March 1873. Territorial limits: the whole of Tirupattur Taluk, the northern portion of Uttangarai Taluk as divided by the Ponna River, and the northern portion of Krishnagiri Taluk, Old Taluks. Appellate territory none. District Municip of Dharmapuri. Overall, like suits and proceedings not otherwise exempted from his cognizance, the amount or value of the subject matter of which does not exceed rupees 2,500. Appellate jurisdiction none. Small cause up to rupees 50, Section 28, Act 3 of 1873 and Government Order dated 18th March 1873. The whole of territorial limits: the whole of Dharmapuri Taluk, the southern portion of Uttangarai Taluk as divided by the Ponnar River, and the southern portion of Krishnagiri, Old Taluks. Appellate territorial limit none. District Municip of Hosur. Original jurisdiction: overall like suits and proceedings not otherwise exempted from his cognizance, the amount or value of the subject matter of which does not exceed rupees 2,500. Appellate jurisdiction none. Small cause up to rupees 50 under Section 28, Act 3 of 1873 and Government Order dated 18th March 1873. Territorial limits: Hosur and Denkanikota, Old Taluks. Appellate territory none. Statements 14 and 15 in the appendix show the work performed by the different courts. Medical. The Jilla Surgeon resides at Salem but inspects all dispensaries in the taluks, of which there are 9, once a year, supervising the work of the apothecaries and hospital assistants in charge. At the chief town, there is an hospital under the municipality in charge of a native surgeon, which is visited daily by the Jilla Surgeon, as also the jail hospital. The Remount Depot is under Honorary Surgeon Wells, MD. The collector and divisional officers have medical subordinates attached to their establishments who assist in vaccination, peregrinate in the villages when outbreaks of cholera or fever occur, and make post-mortem examinations when required. The following is a synopsis of the work performed in the hospitals of the district for the years 1875 to 76 to 1878-79. It's a huge number of data which is better glanced at by pausing the video. As municipal, as regards vaccination and sanitation, White Supra under Local Fund Board. Municipal, there is only one municipality in the district, with the chief town Salem. The municipal commission consists of 8 official and 9 non-official members, the collector of the district being ex officio president. The working of the municipality, its income, expenditure, and etc. are given below in the Taluk Notice of Salem, Volume 2, page 30. Police. Exclusive of village watchmen, the district police force in 1876 consisted of 1 superintendent, 1 assistant superintendent, 20 inspectors, and 1,095 constables, costing rupees 1,47,786 rupees, furnishing 1 policeman to every 6.86 square miles and every 1,761 of the population. The cost of the force is at rupees 0, 1 annas, 2 and 1/3 of pice per head of the population. According to the statistical returns for 1878-79, the total number of the police was 1,139. A trifling addition to the force in the chief town is contemplated. The district superintendent has the 4 Talagad taluks under his immediate charge and exercises supervision over the Baramahal taluks and the Balaghat, which are in charge of the assistant superintendent with headquarters at Tirupattur. The headquarter inspector resides at Salem and looks after the office work of the superintendent's office. In the Taluk notices, the police economy in the different ranges has been separately noticed. Post office, the number of letters, newspapers, parcels, and books received in and dispatched from Salem are shown in the subjoined statement. Year 1861 to 62, the dispatched letters were 2,63,323 and received letters 2,75,235. Dispatched newspapers 6,958, received newspapers 26,419. Dispatched parcels 1,978, received parcels 3,440. Dispatched books 590 and received books 1,780. In the year 1865-66, dispatched letters were 3,44,108, received letters 3,16,050. Dispatched newspapers were 6,409, received newspapers were 27,528. Dispatched parcels were 1,846, received parcels were 4,274. Dispatched books were 378, received books were 2,163. In 1870 to 71, dispatched letters were 5,34,320 and received letters 3,88,375. Dispatched newspapers were 11,810 and received newspapers were 28,607. Dispatched parcels were 1,004, received parcels were 1,852. Dispatched books were 1,656 and received books were 4,757. The following are the details of which the foregoing is an abstract. Oh goodness, it's a very large data sheet which should be watched by pausing the video. It should be read by pausing the video and is pointless if read aloud. I think it will be absolutely pointless to read this huge amount of data. Better read by inspection by pausing the video. End of comment. The next statement also similarly better read by pausing the video. Of late years, the statistics of correspondence passing through the post office have been deduced from an examination of all articles received for delivery during the weeks 8th to 14th February and 8th to 14th August of each year. The following statement for the years 1875 to 76 and 1878 to 79 has been prepared on that principle. Again, the data is huge, which is better read by pausing the video. Public institutions. There are reading rooms or literary associations at Salem, Erkard, Hosur, and Tirupattur. The chief source of charity is the Topur Chatram Fund, from which serais, bandipetas, and etc. are being provided all over the district. Those at Salem, Topur, Jolarpet, Attur, and Tirupattur are amongst the best. But native liberality has left little to be done in this respect so far as the wants of native travelers are concerned. It would be rare indeed on any line of road to come to a village of importance where shelter for man and beast had not been provided in days gone by. Railway. The Madras Railway has 133 miles and 36 chains of line in the district. The Southwest Main Line running from the 120th mile, 21st chain from Madras to the 241st mile, 32nd chain, and the Bangalore branch extending from the 132nd mile Southwest line at Jolarpet to the 144th mile, 25th chain on the branch. The annual cost of maintaining each mile of the line is about rupees 1,150. The following are the railway stations in the district with an estimate of the annual receipts at each under the separate heads of passenger and goods traffic. For 1875, passenger and goods. Vaniambadi, passenger receipts 17,348 rupees, 2 annas 11 pies. Goods receipts 44,435 rupees, 7 annas 3 pies. Jolarpet, passenger receipts 49,418 rupees, 2 annas 11 pies. Goods receipts 455 rupees, 7 annas 3 pies. Tirupattur, passenger receipts 20,948 rupees, 2 annas 11 pies. Goods receipts 77,495 rupees, 7 annas 3 pies. Samalpatti, passenger receipts 4,126 rupees, 5 annas 7 pies. Goods receipts 9,624 rupees, 8 annas 9 pies. Morapur, passenger receipts 8,836 rupees, 5 annas 10 pies. Goods receipts 20,001 rupees, 13 annas 1 pies. Mallapuram, passenger receipts 3,930 rupees. Goods receipts 4,780 rupees, 14 annas 7 pies. Chevrolet Hills, passenger receipts 2,520 rupees. Goods receipts 3,335 rupees, 7 annas 3 pies. Suramangalam or Salem, passenger receipts 92,781 rupees, 13 annas and 1 pies. And goods receipts 82,385 rupees, 7 annas and 3 pies. McDonald's Choultry, passenger receipts 1,622 rupees, 11 annas and 8 pies. And goods receipts 970 rupees, 14 annas and 7 pies. Sankagiri Durgam, passenger receipts 7,508 rupees, 2 annas and 11 pies. And goods receipts 16,993 rupees, 10 annas and 2 pies. In total, passenger receipts are 2,09,039 rupees, 15 annas and 10 pies, while goods receipts are 2,60,479 rupees, 1 anna and 5 pies. The following are the heights of the various stations above sea level. Vaniambadi 1,152.95 feet, Jolarpet 1,319.82 feet, Tirupattur 1,271.52 feet, Samalpatti 1,261.46 feet, Morapur 1,305.03 feet. The highest point in the southwest line is between this and the next station and exceeds 1,400 feet. The Mallapuram 1,386.59 feet, Chevrolet Hill Station 1,243.48 feet, Salem 919.67 feet, McDonald's Choultry 783.59 feet, Sankagiri Durgam 876.38 feet, Erode 539.47 feet. Actually, Mohan's comment, I'm hearing about Erode only here. Erode at that time seems not to have been any major place at all. Very rarely is LeFanu mentioning Erode in this manual. Okay. End of Mohan's comment. Registration. The registration staff consists of a district registrar on rupees 150 plus commission with 4 clerks costing rupees 42 per mensem and 15 sub-registrars, of whom 7 receive rupees 30 per mensem plus commission and 8 are unpaid, being already either deputy tahsildars or taluk sharishtadars. The sub-registrar's clerks are paid from the fees. Those sub-registrars who hold no other post are allowed a peon on rupees 6 per mensem. The total cost of the staff is rupees 465 per mensem plus commission, which varies according to the work done. The following is a statement of registrations, receipts, and expenditure for registration offices in the district of Salem during the years 1874 to 1878. Okay, it's a very detailed data, which again is looked up, glanced by pausing the video. A considerable increase from 1877 to 1879 in the total number of registered documents appears attributable to the pressure of the famine inducing well-to-do classes to pledge or sell their lands. Remount Depot. A full account of the origin and working of the Remount Department will be found in Chapter 5, Volume 2. Telegraphs. Every railway station is a telegraph station also. Besides the railway wires, the government wires pass to Bangalore along Trunk Road number 1, and at Hosur a telegraph station has been opened for the use chiefly of the Remount Depot. Settlement. The working of the settlement department is referred to in the following chapter on the revenue system and history of the district. Survey. The following statement embodies the results attained by the survey department up to the year 1877. Again, it's a very detailed chart which is better pursued by pausing the video. End of chapter. Guys, thank you for bearing with me till now. End of chapter 4 of LeFanu's Salem District Manual, published in 1883.